Chapter 771. Some of the seniors were clear about this verbal rule. As long as Jing Yunjiao provided some proof, they had no right to say anything. I don't mind if you want to deduct points, but you have to follow the rules. Even if this room isn't completely up to standard, it's not too far off. If I'm not satisfied with the deduction of points, I don't mind posting the student union's actions on the forum, Jing Yunjiao said. After speaking, he took out his phone and started recording. Every nook and cranny of the room was recorded, including Zhou Meijuan's glaring face that looked like she wanted to eat someone. This way, even if they wanted to deduct points, they wouldn't lose too many points. Jing Er is right. I'm going to register an account now. Every time you come to check, I'll broadcast it online so that everyone can be witnesses. It's only interesting if it's fair and open. Anyway, there's no man hiding in this room. What's there to be afraid of? Hua Tianxian's eyes lit up. After speaking, she directly turned on her computer, logged into a university's forum, and registered an account. After the two of them said that, the student union members didn't look too good. They did have the intention to stand up for Zhou Meijun, but now it seemed like they wouldn't be able to do so. There's trash on the floor. Deduct 5 points from the head of the dorm. Personal belongings in the room are messy. Deduct 5 points from everyone. The head of the dorm took the lead in raising a pet, but didn't provide proof. Deduct 20 points from him. After speaking with a gloomy face, the leader glanced at Hua Tianxian and Jing Yunjiao's phone camera and walked out without another word. After the leader left, Jing Yunjiao casually threw his phone on the bed. Hua Tianxian, on the other hand, pretended to save the video. She busied herself with the computer and uploaded the video in a short while. Great deity, isn't it inappropriate to post our dorm's photos online? Yao Baobao's face was conflicted. She had just showered and was wearing thin bunny pajamas. She didn't know if it was photographed. If it was, it would be too ugly. Of course it has to be posted. Otherwise, they'll think that I'm just saying it to scare them. Besides, they said that there's trash on the floor. Is this trash? It's just 2 paper bags. Our belongings are much neater and cleaner than the other dorms. Humph. Hua Tianxian snorted softly, and a black aura seemed to spread around her. Jing Yunjiao also agreed with this. The 4 people in their dorm room were all rather particular, especially Hua Tianxian. She had a perverted demand for her private life, demanding perfection in everything. Therefore, the things in the room weren't messy at all. It was just that there were a lot of personal belongings. The only one who was unreasonable was the Black Emperor. However, it was easy to get the documents for the hygiene inspection. Li Xiaoyun might even have them. He just had to ask him later. As soon as the video was uploaded, many people replied. Of course, most of them were boys. After all, a place like the female dormitory had an irresistible temptation for boys. However, other than the boys, there were also some girls who wandered around online. It can't be? Points had to be deducted for this? Then if you come to our dormitory, wouldn't 500 basic points be gone in a day? Everything is very neat and tidy. Moreover, it's spotless. I really don't understand the actions of the student council. Also, many of my friends have pets. They haven't had their points deducted for 2 or 3 years. It's so pitiful to have points deducted for the first time as a new student. The person above is focusing on the wrong thing. As a girl, I can see how classy this dormitory is at first glance. The skincare products on the table are more expensive than gold. The person living in this dormitory is definitely a rich young lady. Chapter 772. Isn't it just some bottles and jars? It's too exaggerated to say that it's more expensive than gold. I wouldn't want it even if you gave it to me, the visitor on the 17th floor said. Idiot upstairs, if you don't want it, we'll take it. A bottle of skincare products is more expensive than school fees. I can guarantee that those beautiful girls in the student council are jealous. Otherwise, why would they be so fierce and deduct points? Am I the only one who noticed that the black bird with 20 points deducted is very domineering? Upstairs, you're not the only one, +1. Hades' ability to attract fans was very strong, especially because he was very photogenic. He stood on Jing Yunjiao's shoulder obediently without making a sound, like a mysterious guardian in the movies. Any girl would definitely not be able to resist his domineering CEO charm. Jing Air, someone sent me a private message asking for Heidi's name. Should I tell them? Also, they want a close-up of Heidi. Hua Tianxian asked Jing Yunzhao while eating snacks. Sure, Jing Yunzhao answered directly. As soon as Jing Yunzhao said that, Hua Tianxian snatched Heidi without saying anything. She raised her phone and took a selfie with Heidi. However, Heidi was a little different from before. Although it was standing on Hua Tianxian's shoulder, its head was turned to the side, far away from Hua Tianxian's neck. It looked like it despised her. Deduct points, deduct points. Heidi suddenly shouted. Hua Tianxian was stunned. No way. I wanted it to learn how to call my name. I didn't expect it to confuse the second word so carelessly. Jing Yunzhao was also shocked. Heidi's learning ability was too strong. Thanks to the student council, Jing Air's Heidi learned the second word. Can anyone guess what it is? Hua Tianxian continued to post with a face full of resentment. This time, she attached a picture of Heidi. The rate of replies increased exponentially. Inspection? The first poster replied, Student Council? The second poster followed, Deduct points. The fifth poster added, Wait, this is an eighth brother. How can it speak? You guys are so funny. The 10th comment found the main point. Those on the 10th floor, go look for information yourself. This is a raven. Not only can it learn human language, it can also imitate the sounds of its surroundings. It's scary to be uncultured. Actually, I want to know what the first word Black Emperor learned was. It can't be mama, right? Hua Tianxian was having a lot of fun, and Jing Yunzhao didn't pay much attention to her. As soon as she laid down on the bed, Heidi ignored Hua Tianxian and flew directly back to Jing Yunzhao's side. He ignored the small house that Jing Yunzhao had bought for her and just stared at her obediently on her shoulder, which made Hua Tianxian exclaim in surprise. Heidi abandoned me to find master. After leaving the last post, Hua Tianxian turned off the computer with a face full of envy. At this time, Jing Yunzhao sent a message to Li Xiaoyun and briefly explained the issue of the hygiene and immunity test. Li Xiaoyun was very direct and said that he would send it over early in the morning, which made her feel relieved and saved her a lot of trouble. How was it today? Li Xiaoyun asked. Jing Yunzhao thought for a while and replied, I ate a lot and was very happy. I even attacked the enemy. Not bad. She was obviously referring to Heidi. However, when Li Xiaoyun saw the line of words, the corner of his mouth twitched. How did you attack? By pecking? Jing Yunzhao felt that Li Xiaoyun was asking the obvious. Is that so? It's better to be conservative in some areas. Next time, you can use your hands and feet, but not your mouth. Jing Yunzhao saw it and instantly felt embarrassed. Chapter 773. Li Xiaoyun's strange behavior wasn't something new. Jing Yunzhao didn't take it to heart at all. However, it felt a little special to be able to report to someone via text every day. It was as if he had a family. However, after chatting for a while, Jing Yunzhao shifted his attention from his phone to his books. After the lights were turned off, he had a good night's sleep. However, that night, under the circumstances that Jing Yunzhao and the others didn't know, a lot of things happened. Many students in the school remembered Heidi's face, especially after Hua Tianxian left a message saying, Heidi went to find his master. Many people wondered what the crazy and cool owner of Heidi looked like. Although they saw Heidi standing on his master's shoulder in the video, Hua Tianxian restrained herself and didn't take a picture of Jing Yunzhao's face. This caused many people to be very curious. What kind of weird personality did the girl who had a pet like Raven have? Apart from that, Zhou Meijun also immediately turned on her computer to look at the posts after she returned home. Seeing the neatly organized water army criticizing the student union, her heart was filled with unbearable anger, especially when she saw so many people praising the pitch-black ferocious pet on Jing Yunzhao's shoulder. That unbalanced feeling emerged once again. She couldn't hold it in any longer and uploaded a photo of Jing Yunzhao and an old man getting off the car together. The picture was secondary. The main problem was Zhou Meijun's wording. The girl with the surname Jing comes from a poor family. She has no parents. In order to flaunt her relationship with an old man in his 60s, she went shopping in a luxurious car. In the picture, the old man's face couldn't be seen. Only his back could be seen. However, Jing Yunzhao's face was very clear. The next morning, when Jing Yunzhao came out of the dormitory, he saw many people looking at him with disdain. It was as if he had returned to the time when he was surrounded by rumors in high school. Jing Yunzhao was very straightforward. He stopped someone and asked, "Why are you looking at me like that?" The other party didn't expect Jing Yunzhao to be so direct. He was shocked by the look and quickly said, "The forum? Aren't you that?" Jing Yunzhao was stunned. Was it because of Heidi? Impossible. She had told Hua Tianxian not to take pictures of her face. She didn't like the feeling of being stared at. Besides, if it was because of Heidi, everyone's expressions wouldn't be so full of disgust. "Aren't you Jing Yunzhao, who has a relationship with an old man in his 60s? "I didn't say that. There are pictures of you on the forum," the person immediately said. When Jing Yunzhao heard this, she understood. He quickly took a look at the forum on his phone. Because it was a campus forum, it was not very popular. However, the number of replies had already reached several thousand. Most of the comments were one-sided. Many of the male students were extremely resentful. They all said that most of the beautiful girls had been slept with, while the female students said that the male students were biased and that they were all straight men. In short, she was considered popular in school because she had no parents, because she was beautiful, and because she knew how to hook up with a rich man even though she was still a freshman. Jing Yunzhao originally thought that she would be angry, but in the end, it was the opposite. A smile appeared on her face. To say. Some people just liked to court death. Just like the group of reporters the He and Xiao families hired, the more trouble they caused, the better it would be for her. Jing Yunzhao's smile made everyone think that she had gone crazy, their faces full of shock. Hua Tianxian and the rest were even more confused. "Jing Er, are you okay? Do you want me to find someone to hack the forum? If it doesn't work, I'll ask my parents to pressure the Zhou family and ask Zhou Meijun to drop out." Chapter 774. At this moment, Hua Tianxian still thought that Jing Yunzhao had been provoked. After all, she didn't know that old man, and even though that car was far from the word luxury car, it was still worth a lot. Jing Yunzhao was also an orphan and had no blood relations. Other people's words could drown her alive. "No need. I actually think that this rumor is pretty good." Jing Yunzhao raised her eyebrows and smiled, as clear as the wind. "What?" Hua Tianxian was stunned. She reached out and touched Jing Yunzhao's forehead. "You don't have a fever, do you? Jing Er, how can you tolerate this? The word kept doesn't sound good. Besides, it's only been one night. In 2 days, the rumor about you will be everywhere. By then, your reputation will be ruined." "Don't worry." Jing Yunzhao pushed her hand away and dragged her back to class. Jing Yunzhao had been very popular in class before because of her beauty and ability. But now, after this incident, the expressions of her classmates changed. "Your notes." Han Nan, the class monitor, returned the notes with a speechless face. Jing Yunzhao didn't care. He went to class as usual. Just as Hua Tianxian had said, over the past 2 days, the situation had become more and more ferocious. There were even people on the forum who had edited the picture of her and Imo Zhengyan walking together, cutting off her profile picture and deliberately pasting it on some random cats and dogs, as if she had done something extremely evil, allowing people to vent their anger at will. Jing Yunzhao had been very quiet. Her condition was a bit too good. Every day, after class, she would disappear for a few hours. Everyone in the dorm was confused. "You're A, and you still want to pretend to be a chaste person? You're pretending to be noble and virtuous. What a joke." Every now and then, someone would pass by Jing Yunzhao's dorm and shout loudly, "Pa!" Hua Tianxian's face turned green. She slammed the comb on the table. "Jing Yunzhao, did you swallow a moron? What's in it for you to let people talk nonsense like this? I've never seen someone as cowardly as you. If I were you, I'd definitely tear those mouths apart." Hua Tianxian roared angrily. Jing Yunzhao put down his book and said softly, "Don't be angry. It'll be over soon." "What do you mean?" Hua Tianxian was still angry. "I didn't tell you guys because I was afraid that you guys would reveal the truth before the matter got out of hand. However, I didn't think that your reaction would be so big. I'm sorry. I actually already had plans. This old man in his 60s is my teacher. Jing Yunjiao explained. Teacher, the three of them were confused. We happened to meet before, so he took me in as his student. His name is Imo Zhengyin, and he's a big shot in the Chinese martial arts world. He's never married, and he's upright and proud. He's always been very particular about a person's morals. I've been going to his place after class these past 2 days to learn from him. My teacher doesn't know about cyber violence, nor does he pay attention to such things, so I'm not sure. But tomorrow, he'll be bringing me to the Chinese painting and calligraphy exhibition. Jing Yunjiao explained in detail. The Chinese painting and calligraphy exhibition was held within the school. They were all students' works. When the time came, the paintings would be displayed on both sides of the school's main road filled with flowers and trees. Imo Zhengyin had said that he would be there to give his comments. Hence, the school's leaders placed great importance on it. The dean would personally appear to reward the students. Of course, Imo Zhengyin didn't intend to participate in the exhibition. After all, it was just a bunch of works that he didn't like. But he couldn't stand her request these past 2 days, so he said that he would be there to give his comments. Chapter 775. Students from other faculties might not be familiar with Imo Zhengyin's name, but those who were involved in Chinese martial arts were full of admiration for him. Although he was a professor at a university, he would only attend 1 or 2 classes every month. Every class would be filled to the brim with students, and some would even sit outside to listen in. Each of his paintings and calligraphy pieces were worth millions, or even tens of millions. However, he was not a businessman, so he rarely sold his paintings to the public. The few times he did, it was for charity. In terms of character, ability, and influence, he was unrivaled in all aspects. Imo Zhengyin? Are you talking about the Imo Zhengyin who is well-versed in Chinese painting, calligraphy, history, and archaeology? Hua Tianxian asked in shock. That's right, Jing Yunjiao said. Everyone in the room was stunned for a few seconds. Just as Jing Yunjiao and Yao Baobao were at a loss, Hua Tianxian suddenly screamed. I worried about you for nothing. Although I've never seen Imo Zhengyin before, I have a painting of him in my house. My dad treats this painting like a treasure and won't even let me touch it. Back then, he spent nearly 10 million to buy it. But now, the price has increased by a few times. Moreover, it's not about the painting. Imo Zhengyin has a great reputation, and my dad is a fan of his. When I applied to a university, if it wasn't for the sake of having a successor for the company, my dad would probably have let me major in Chinese painting. Jing Yunjiao was also a little surprised. He did not expect that to be the case. However, it was not surprising. Hua Tianxian was from the capital, and her parents were not ordinary people. It was natural for her to know about Imo Zhengyin. You're his student? Hua Tianxian suddenly smiled flatteringly. Jing Yunjiao immediately stood up with goosebumps. Hua Tianxian, the daughter of a rich family, had never looked at someone with such an expression before. It made her feel a little unlucky. That's right. She was a little speechless. Then, it shouldn't be a problem for him to sell a few paintings to me, right? Jing, you probably don't know, but his calligraphy and paintings are very expensive. If I can get 1 or 2 of them for my father, then my pocket money will definitely increase. Most importantly, no matter what, my father will find that stinky instructor Qi Zhong for me. Hua Tianxian said. After the military training, she had already asked her parents to help her find out more about Qi Zhong in the army. Who knew that when she asked again today, her parents actually told her not to mess around, and the matter was left unsettled. Why are you looking for Qi Zhong? Jing Yunjiao was stunned. An eye for an eye? Hua Tianxian said matter-of-factly. Jing Yunjiao blushed with shame and silently lit a candle for Qi Zhong. Speaking of which, I should be meeting with Qi Zhong in a few days. I'll let you know when we're done. Hua Tianxian's eyes lit up when she heard that. Great. By the way, do you have Qi Zhong's phone number? Jing Yunjiao nodded. Give it to me. Hua Tianxian grinned and immediately stretched out her hand. She was in high spirits. At this moment, all of her worries had disappeared. She even heard the mocking and gossiping outside. She was so happy that she tossed and turned in her bed. She could not wait to see what would happen the next day. That night, apart from Jing Yunjiao, the other 3 did not sleep well. When they woke up in the morning, they all had dark circles under their eyes. but they were all in a good mood. After all, Jing Yunzhao had been a coward for 2 or 3 days, which had affected them greatly. But now, it was time for them to hold their heads high. The early autumn breeze was very comfortable. Classes were held in the morning as usual, and Imo Zhengyan showed up at noon. In the morning, the scenic paths in the campus were filled with all kinds of paintings and paintings. Many people stopped to admire them. Chapter 776. Most of the paintings present were about people, flowers, birds, mountains, and rivers. They looked very artistic and made people immerse themselves in them. Jing Yunzhao said that she would go with Imo Zhengyan, so she immediately went to Imo Zhengyan's teaching place after class. When she saw his clothes, she pursed her lips and smiled. Coincidentally, Professor Imo was wearing the same clothes he wore when they went to the market that day. "Xiao Jing, you don't seem to be in a good mood today." Professor Imo looked at Jing Yunzhao and felt that something was wrong. This child was usually very steady and did not show his emotions. However, he seemed to be in a good mood today. There was a smile on his face, which made people feel a little cold. "Teacher, I just can't wait to admire those paintings," Jing Yunzhao said. "Is that so?" She didn't seem like it. However, after interacting with her for the past 3 days, he was extremely satisfied with Jing Yunzhao. A person's personality could be seen from the way they conducted themselves. He was a person with high expectations, especially when it came to writing and painting. He was extremely strict, but this girl's tolerance was very high. No matter what he said, she would listen patiently. If she knew where she was lacking, she would correct it. She was very smart and understood everything he said with just a hint. This girl also firmly remembered everything he said. Originally, he felt that he was a little impulsive in accepting students, but now he felt lucky. She was a good seedling. She was patient, smart, and had a unique temperament. Every time she was immersed in painting, she felt as if she had merged with the ink. He could not help but be amazed. It was a pity that she learned it too late. Otherwise, with her talent, she would have been famous long ago. Imo Zhengyan sighed and went downstairs with Jing Yunzhao. Imo Zhengyan hated being disturbed, so the building was very quiet. It was also his staff dormitory. There were not many people around. The two of them walked through a small path and walked into the crowd. If it was Imo Zhengyan alone, it wouldn't have attracted the attention of others. After all, there were millions of old men in the world. The previous photos didn't show his face, so no one knew who he was. But now that he appeared together with Jing Yunzhao, it was completely different. Although there were many students who knew Imo Zhengyan, there were even more people who came to watch the exhibition. Those people did not know who Imo Zhengyan was, so it immediately became lively. Heavens, isn't this too arrogant? She's really thick-skinned to actually bring this dirty old man around the school. One is a frivolous old man, and the other is a materialistic little bitch. They've really refreshed my worldview. That's right, I've never seen such a shameless person. Even if she wants to live off an old man, she should keep a low profile. Speaking of which, why does this old man look so familiar? The crowd was noisy, and Imo Zhengyan was not deaf. How could he not hear it? At first, he might have been a little confused, but the more he heard, the angrier he became. Were these people talking about him and Jing Yunzhao? What's going on? Jing Yunzhao looked at Imo Zhengyan's appearance and pitied him for a while. He was already so old, yet he was still being criticized by others. He must have felt wronged, but master and disciple were still one family. She had already been scolded by others for 3 days, and it had only been a short while. Moreover, the scolding had already disappeared. Moreover, it took 2 hands to clap. She had been slandered, and as one of the parties involved, Professor Imo should have the right to know. "That's Professor Imo," someone in the crowd said. Imo Zhengyan was so angry that he wanted to flick his sleeves and leave. When he was leaving, he ran into the dean and a few leaders who had rushed over. "Old Imo, what's wrong with you?" the dean asked curiously. Chapter 777. The dean knew that Imo Zhengyan did not have a good temper. The two of them had known each other for decades, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that they were good friends. Ridiculous. I'm so pissed off. Imo Zhengyan was so anxious that he blurted out a genteel phrase. The dean immediately knew that something bad had happened. Although Imo Zhengyin had a bad temper, he was only angry about things and not people. It was rare for him to fly into a rage like this. What's going on? The dean looked at Jing Yunzhao and asked unhappily. She was the only student beside Imo Zhengyin, and she followed him closely. Why are you yelling at her? Imo Zhengyin was immediately angry and said, when did the atmosphere in this school become so bad? Huh. How dare she say that I'm old and indecent in front of me? I'd like to ask the students who spoke just now, how am I old and indecent? He had lived his life in fear and trepidation. For the sake of his lover who had passed away, he kept a distance from the opposite sex. When he was young, it was not that there were no new women around him, but he never dared to cross the line. Therefore, he had a clean reputation all his life. He also wanted to use this clean reputation to meet Wenyu, but he did not expect that his old bones would be framed in such a way. The dean was confused. He originally thought that the little girl had angered Imo Zhengyin, but he did not expect that to be the case. He quickly asked someone to invite a few students over and asked, tell me, what's going on? The students were also shocked. Their faces were filled with nervousness. Jing Yunzhao raised her eyebrows, the corner of her mouth carrying a trace of a smile, but it was a bit sinister. In the crowd, Hua Tianxian and the others had been waiting for this scene for a long time, their hearts in their throats. It's a rumor on the forum. Previously on the forum, some people had said that the old man's back looked like Imo Zhengyin. But who was Imo Zhengyin? How could a person who had been extremely noble and virtuous all his life know a new student? Therefore, it was directly ruled out. Rumor? What rumor? What's going on? Imo Zhengyin said angrily. He was an old man who had no interest in the internet, and he did not like the children nowadays who always stared at their phones and computers. He had forgotten how to write, so why would he pay attention to such things? Now that he was reminded by the student, the leader next to the dean immediately started to check. When he checked his phone, he broke out in cold sweat. Imo Zhengyin was the living signboard of their school. If he were to resign in a fit of anger, then a university would have offended a prominent figure in the Chinese martial arts world. To the students, that would be a huge loss. The dean stared at the post for a while before looking at Jing Yunzhao and asking, Old Imo, these students are just talking nonsense. Nonsense? Just because of this stupid photo? The photo was real, but were these kids so immoral? Just because we sat in the same car, she said that I was her sugar daddy? Making things up without any evidence. This matter must be thoroughly investigated. Also, this child is my disciple. He's the only disciple that I, Imo Zhengyin, have ever accepted as a disciple. Imo Zhengyin added. These words shocked everyone present. Imo Zhengyin was a lecturer and had countless students all over the world. However, the meaning of this student was different from what he had said. Imo Zhengyin had taken in many students before and personally taught them. He was very attentive, but he had high expectations for his students. In this world, there were not many who would not bend over for the sake of money. Therefore, most of them were rejected by him in the end and ended up as a former teacher-student relationship. But now, Imo Zhengyin's meaning was completely different. It was a lifelong teacher-student relationship and a personal disciple at that. Their relationship was closer and stronger. Moreover, Jing Yunzhao's future would be closely related to him, which meant that he was shouldering a heavy responsibility. Of course, no one felt that there was anything wrong with this responsibility. Instead, everyone felt that Jing Yunzhao was not worthy of it. Chapter 778. At that moment, almost everyone was looking at Jing Yunzhao with surprise, envy, and jealousy. With a teacher like Imo Zhengyin, Jing Yunzhao's future would definitely be much smoother than others. Moreover, Imo Zhengyin was a person with real talent. His teaching was very important to students like them. No one could learn all of Imo Zhengyin's skills, but now, Jing Yunzhao had that possibility. But Professor Imo, she isn't a student of the Faculty of Traditional Chinese Studies, someone in the crowd asked in confusion. Everyone only realized what was going on when they heard that. In the past 2 days, Jing Yunzhao had become very famous. Regarding the profession she studied, outsiders still had some understanding of it, but because they were too shocked just now, they didn't think about it. But now that someone had opened their mouth to remind them, everyone couldn't understand Imo Zhengyin's actions. If he wanted to take in a student, He could just choose from the Faculty of Traditional Chinese Studies. He might not be satisfied with ordinary students, but what about graduate students, masters, and doctorates? Many of those people wanted to have a deeper understanding of Immerse. Why didn't he choose them? Anyone in the Faculty of Traditional Chinese Studies would have been fine. Why did he choose a student who was not related to him at all? Moreover, Jing Yunjiao majored in management. She would definitely go into business in the future. Everyone knew that Mo Zhengyin hated businessmen the most. So what if she's not from the Faculty of Traditional Chinese Studies? This girl is not a foreigner. What's wrong with learning traditional Chinese studies from me? Mo Zhengyin's face was full of dissatisfaction. His anger had not subsided at all. He continued, "Dean, how should we deal with this matter?" This was an extremely serious blow to his reputation. Inside the post, there was only a simple photo. Jing Yunjiao and Mo Zhengyin did indeed get off the car together, but they didn't have the slightest bit of contact. Previously, because of the post comments, everyone's first impression was the strongest, but now that they thought about it, Jing Yunjiao's attitude towards the old man was obviously one of respect and politeness. There wasn't the slightest bit of ambiguity. The students were more or less gossipy and hated evil as if it was their personal enemy. They originally thought that since someone had seen it with their own eyes, it was the truth. That was why they felt that Jing Yunjiao had thrown away a university's face, thrown away the women's face. But now, they had nothing to say. They were even a little flustered. At this moment, the dean's anger was not small either. Mo Zhengyin was a noble person. His achievements over the years had brought countless honors to the school. The school could not wait to praise him. So why would they do such a thing to slander his honor? Moreover, this time, they were criticized in front of their students. If this news spread, a university would become a laughingstock. Furthermore, which teacher would dare to get too close to their students in the future? The relationship between teacher and student, the relationship between elders and juniors, would it be distorted in the eyes of outsiders? It was clearly the most revered inheritance, but in the end, it was misunderstood to be disgusting and filthy. Where was the morality? Ask the technical department to investigate. We must find the person who posted the post. Also, list all the people in the post who have strong words. The dean suddenly said. As soon as he said this, everyone was shocked. However, it was too late now. Even if the post was deleted, the traces were still there. They could still investigate it clearly without any reservations. Immediately, everyone panicked and felt guilty. There were already tens of thousands of comments left on this post. Among them, there were quite a few warriors who scolded Jing Yunjiao until she was covered in cuts and bruises. Some people were even scrolling through the comments on their phones during class. Now that there was a strict investigation, it was likely that the number of people implicated would not be small. Chapter 779. Everyone was a little confused. They did not know how things had turned out this way. Jing Yunjiao's lips curled up slightly as she scanned the crowd. There was a hint of a smile in her eyes that was cruel and contemptuous. Teacher, the exhibition is not over yet. After all, it's the hard work of the students, Jing Yunjiao said. Her cold voice made everyone's heart tremble. They did not know what to say. They felt as if there was a threat. It was as if there was a pressure that came out of nowhere and kept spreading around them. Mo Zhengyin had not vented his anger at that moment, but when he heard Jing Yunjiao's words, he frowned and snorted. All right, let's continue watching then. Mo Zhengyin wasn't an idiot. He knew that he was being used by Jing Yunjiao, but he didn't think that what Jing Yunjiao did was wrong. Instead, he was angry at someone else. After all, it was a good thing that Jing Yunjiao was smart enough. She was able to think of a way to make him appear at the most suitable time, making him speechless in one fell swoop. Otherwise, a good little girl would definitely become a street rat that everyone hated. He had his temper and pride. Naturally, he hoped that his students would have some backbone and not be bullied by others. Moreover, this matter was indeed related to him. It was only right for him to come forward and solve it. Jing Yunjiao quietly stayed beside Mo Zhengyin. It was as if she had forgotten what had just happened. Her eyes were immersed in the exquisite paintings. She had only learned Chinese painting for 2 or 3 days. She had just learned some basic knowledge of paper and brush, and even some historical knowledge. However, She was indeed interested in the completed paintings and was sincerely appreciating them. However, other than Imo Zhengyin, the dean and some other leaders were still beside her. However, she was not restrained at all. She was minding her own business and admiring the paintings as if there was no one around. The dean was a little surprised when he saw this. He also realized that Jing Yunjiao looked a little familiar. After a while, he asked, "This girl should have good results in the college entrance examination, right?" He paid a lot of attention to the school's enrollment. Every year, he would pay attention to the new talents. The most eye-catching one was a kid from Yang province who scored almost full marks. The school had even sent someone to talk to this kid, but they didn't see him at all. He thought that the kid had been snatched away by another school, but he didn't expect to be surprised when he filled in the application form. When she first entered the school had contacted her and wanted to do some publicity, but they were all rejected. There wasn't even a banner to welcome her. He only had some impression of it because he had read the information. Imo Zhengyin was stunned for a moment. I didn't ask about her results, nor did I specifically check. If he wanted to take in a student, he would take her in. Who cares what kind of score she used to get in? The dean choked and was speechless at Imo Zhengyin. Jing Yunjiao, you're the top scorer of this year's college entrance examination in Yang province, right? The dean confirmed. This name and appearance were very familiar, so there was no mistake about it. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Yes. As expected, the dean was a little surprised. No wonder. Old Imo, this child is a talent. Other than Chinese, he scored full marks in all his subjects. Moreover, the 1 point deducted from Chinese was just a symbolic mark. You know that, too. That 1 point is to tell the students that there is no end to knowledge and that there will always be room for improvement. Not to mention getting full marks. Even passing full marks would be fine. He had checked and found out that this child had done a good deed when she was still in school. Originally, she was supposed to be given extra marks, but who knew that she would score so high that the provincial government didn't know where to add her marks, so they dropped the matter. Chapter 780. Initially, he thought that old Imo had taken in the wrong student, but now, he felt differently. She was so young. Not only did she have good grades, but she had also done many heroic deeds. She must have a good character and was intelligent. She should be nurtured with great effort. Imo Zhengyin was also shocked. Following that, there was a strong sense of pride. I've taken a fancy to her ability. Jing Yunjiao did not mind. In her mind, the college entrance exam was long over. The things she was learning now were all new. It was useless to think about the glory of the past. At this time, wherever Jing Yunjiao passed, the people around her would automatically make way for her. They looked at her with complicated expressions, and some were even a little shocked. That was because the people around her were all famous people in the school. Ordinary students would more or less tremble in fear when they saw them. Who would be like her? After a while, Jing Yunjiao also saw Hua Tianxian and the other two. She waved her hand and asked them to come over. Hua Tianxian was more excited. It was rare to see her so serious and cautious. When the exhibition was almost finished, Hua Tianxian finally plucked up her courage and asked Jing Yunjiao to take a photo of her and Imo Zhengyin standing together. Although Imo Zhengyin's temper was not very good, he was not a strange old man. At the very least, he was much better than old man Su. Therefore, when he knew that Hua Tianxian's father had collected his paintings, he was very cooperative. Although I don't like businessmen, I have to say that this world can't do without them. Since your father collected my paintings, he must have participated in the charity auction and done a good deed, said Imo Zhengyin. He did not like businessmen, but he did not like those profiteers. However, he had to admit that some businessmen could do a lot. Many times, they were generous and could help many people out of trouble. Hua Tianxian's eyes lit up after being praised by Imo Zhengyin. She was like an obedient child. The dean knew Hua Tianxian's father, so he took extra care of her. He even said that if possible, he would like to invite this entrepreneur to give a speech at the school. Although Hua Tianxian knew that her parents weren't interested in the speech, she still cooperated with them and made a few polite remarks. She didn't look like a student, but a woman who had grown up in all kinds of social gatherings. At this moment, she had the temperament of a businesswoman that didn't fit in with the school. As soon as the seemingly relaxed exhibition ended, It became a nerve-wracking process. The technical department was still investigating. They already knew who the person who posted the thread was, but because there were too many enthusiastic replies, it was a little troublesome. During the afternoon class, Zhou Meijun appeared at the door. Jing Yunjiao, I didn't do it on purpose, Zhou Meijun said as soon as Jing Yunjiao appeared. Miss Zhou, I don't know what you're talking about, Jing Yunjiao asked even though he already knew the answer. You know it. That post was posted by me, but I didn't know it was Professor Mo at that time. Also, I already told you before I posted it. Why didn't you tell me? You're responsible for making such a big deal out of it, Zhou Meijun said in a panic. Her eyes turned red. She wasn't at the exhibition in the afternoon. She only overheard it when she was in the dormitory. They said that Jing Yunjiao was the famous Professor Mo's student in the sinology department. They said that Professor Mo was very influential in the school and that the dean was going to punish the person who spread the rumors. She panicked at that moment. It wasn't easy for her to get into a university. Her mother and stepfather had always been proud of her for being able to get into a university. If the school punished her or even expelled her, she would lose all face. Chapter 781. Zhou Meijun was panicking like a pitiful little animal. However, Jing Yunjiao pressed on. Why should I tell you that he's Professor Mo? Isn't this good? Zhou Meijun's heart skipped a beat. You knew that I would upload the photos? Zhou Meijun exclaimed. Jing Yunjiao sneered. I'm not a clairvoyant. You chose to expose yourself in such a dramatic way. You're pretty good. When she found out that Zhou Meijun had taken the photos of the so-called evidence, she didn't care at all. She knew that regardless of whether she made a scene or not, she wouldn't be the one to be hurt in the end. Therefore, she didn't care much. However, Zhou Meijun was much bolder than she had imagined. She actually dared to use such an eye-catching title. Jing Yunjiao, please let me off this time. I was in the wrong this time and I apologize to you. You're Professor Mo's student. Can you tell him to let this matter end like this? I can give you money. I'll try my best to help you with whatever you want. At this moment, she had no choice but to lower her noble head. She clenched her fists as if she had been greatly humiliated. Jing Yunjiao smiled gently. Do you think I'm that kind of person? Let her go. Not only did these 3 words sound impossible, but they were also somewhat laughable. Zhou Meijun's heart skipped a beat. What good will it do you to kick me out? Jing Yunjiao, I'm begging you. Zhou Meijun exclaimed. Do I have to agree to your begging? You think too highly of yourself. Since you've done something wrong, you should pay the price for your actions. That's right. All right. The professor asked me for my opinion on this matter. I don't mind telling you my opinion. This matter is too serious. We have to set an example. Therefore, Zhou Meijun, your student status will be revoked. There's no room for discussion. Also, if you want to rely on connections to get into other universities, it seems impossible. You probably don't know about Professor Mo's influence in the Chinese academic world, Jing Yunjiao said. Universities with the same name as a university, or those key universities, would definitely not accept a student whose student status had been revoked. The Zhou family was indeed a powerful family, but in the end, they weren't that powerful. They couldn't even compare to her jade spirit wine. The only thing they could do was spend money, but sometimes, money wasn't the medium to solve everything. Of course, those third-rate schools might still be able to get in through the back door. Zhou Meijun almost went crazy when she heard that. The Zhou family didn't have a son. Her stepfather seemed to have some health problems, so they only had 2 children. Her, the stepdaughter, and Ren Xingyue, the niece. Therefore, the Zhou family's property would definitely belong to the 2 of them in the future. The possibility of her getting it was originally very high. After all, her mother was around. But now, if she was kicked out of school, it would be different. Her stepfather's impression of her would definitely be greatly reduced. He was already considered to dote on Ren Xingyue. If this happened, her life in the future would be even more difficult. Because of Jing Yunjiao, she was better than her in every aspect. She even regretted that she had to compete with Jing Yunjiao in the past. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been suppressed to such an extent. What to do? She was full of panic. She had already looked for her uncle, but her uncle was only a small assistant professor. He couldn't do anything at all. Moreover, This was an order from the dean himself. Jing Yunzhao, how dare you treat me like this? I won't let you off. She gritted her teeth and was full of hatred. You're not the first person to say that you won't let me off. I'll wait and see, Jing Yunzhao said coldly. Before this, they still didn't know who would be the one who wouldn't let go. Chapter 782. Zhou Meijun clenched her teeth, her mind a mess. She suddenly regretted putting on a show of strength and saying such unyielding words. If she begged her again, but the moment this thought appeared, it was immediately rejected. The moment she thought about how she had to lower her head in front of Jing Yunzhao, she felt as if her whole body was being pricked by needles. She turned around and left. Jing Yunzhao looked at her back with a slight smile. He took out a small stone from the space and flicked it directly. With a bang, Zhou Meijun fell to the ground. There were many students passing by, and they were all shocked. But at this time, the school's punishment had not been announced. The outsiders did not know who the initiator of the kept woman incident was. Seeing Zhou Meijun so embarrassed, they hurriedly came forward to help. Jing Yunzhao was fully capable of making her unable to get up forever, but he could not do so. She had her own principles. Unless she had no choice, she would never use her medical skills to harm people. After all, she got the space and took advantage of the benefits left by her ancestors. If she used her medical knowledge to deal with the enemy, it would be an insult to her medical skills. Therefore, she tried to avoid it. But it was also possible to not use her medical skills. The afternoon passed quickly. Many people waited at the bulletin board, waiting for the results. During this period, many people were called to the school leaders. Everyone was in danger. They were all worried that they would be the next one. After all, there were too many people among them. The school's technical department only checked the students with serious behavior. After the list came out, even Jing Yunzhao was called. When he entered the door, he was surprised to see more than 30 students in the room. However, in addition to Zhou Meijun, there was one person he knew. That was Tao Gu. Of course, there were also students who had a good relationship with Tao Gu and Zhou Meijun. It seemed that they were loyal to each other. Jing Yunzhao suddenly felt funny. The resentment between her and Tao Gu had long been settled. Tao Gu even apologized to her in front of everyone and promised to avoid her in the future. She did not expect that although she did it, she was still not reconciled in private. She looked for her own death. She was hopelessly stupid. Jing Yunzhao, you're the victim of this incident. So I asked you to come and have a look. The deputy dean said in person. Jing Yunzhao nodded. Can I know what they said about me when they were separated? Originally, there was no need for the deputy director to personally deal with this matter, but who asked it to involve Mo Zhengyin? In addition, the number of students involved was not small. That was why they paid so much attention to it. The vice school head handed over a stack of documents. Jing Yunzhao flipped through them one by one to take a look. Including Zhou Meijun, there were a total of 36 people. Zhou Meijun was the floor master, and she was the one who planned all the fun. There was no room for discussion about the cancellation of their student status. As for the others, they were quite interesting as well. There was no enmity between them, but these people actually launched a lengthy personal attack on her. Their words were vulgar, and some of them even posted hundreds of times. They were simply heroes in front of the computer. Moreover, not all of these 36 people had committed serious crimes. There were also a few of them at the other campuses, but the number was very small. Jing Yunzhao, I'm sorry, we really didn't do it on purpose. I just thought you. What do you think I am? Something to do with the old man? Do you mean that if I take a photo now, I can upload it online and say that you gathered illegally to do something shameful? Jing Yunzhao said expressionlessly. He put the documents back on the table without the slightest bit of sympathy. Chapter 783. There were both males and females among these students. Some of them looked sweet and harmless, while some of them were silent and seemed to be self-abased and cowardly. Unexpectedly, through the shining screen, they all turned into different people, like wild beasts. Can you forgive us? Really? We didn't do it on purpose. Jing Yunzhao, I'll graduate in one more year. If I'm punished, my future, I beg you. One by one, they begged. Jing Yunzhao looked indifferent. Where was the earlier? Deputy Dean, please deal with it as usual. I have no intention of forgiving them, Jing Yunjiao said directly. She knew that the Deputy Dean didn't ask her to come over just for her to take a look. He wanted her to soften her heart. After all, many students were involved. Such a situation of punishing so many students at once was almost unheard of in a university. Moreover, some of them were indeed here to waste their days. However, there were also children with bright futures. Therefore, the Deputy Dean was soft-hearted and gave them one last chance. However, the Deputy Dean probably didn't expect Jing Yunjiao's attitude to be so resolute. Jing Yunjiao, you really have guts. I know that I can't stay in this university anymore. However, you'll still be in a university in the future. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to survive after offending so many people? Zhou Meijun said. Of course, she wasn't trying to absolve the others. She just knew that if the others' punishment could be reduced, she might be able to reduce it from expulsion to probation. Jing Yunjiao sneered. Are you trying to scare and threaten me? You haven't forgotten, have you? If I didn't use the school's method to deal with the posts you posted, I could have sent you to jail. Zhou Meijun's body tensed up. Jing Yunjiao didn't use the legal method to deal with it. It wasn't that he wanted to let her off, but he didn't want to make things too ugly. If he dealt with it behind closed doors, no one would say anything. However, if he handed it over to the police, it would affect her, and Professor Imo Zhou Meijun was speechless. When the others heard this, they fell silent as well. Zhou Meijun's student status will be revoked, and she will be expelled. As for the others, they will be on probation, the Deputy Dean said. When he said this, everyone was stunned. They couldn't even get their degree certificate, and they would have to redo it. Not to mention the trouble, the most important thing was their records. An unclean record would bring too many disadvantages. Everyone stared at Jing Yunjiao angrily. However, their anger didn't affect Jing Yunjiao at all. These were not the only people who were scolding her. They were the most serious ones. If she didn't deal with them, others would think that she was easy to bully. Moreover, she deserved to be punished for her wrongdoings. Jing Yunjiao's face was calm. After all, she wasn't in the wrong. Although these people were unwilling, there was nothing they could do. As for Zhou Meijun, she was in complete despair. She even looked a little crazy. However, no matter how crazy she was, it was useless. She could only obediently pack her things and leave. When she reluctantly left the school with her luggage, Jing Yunjiao appeared in front of her with Heidi. He stared at her and smiled. These are Heidi's immunity certificates. Unfortunately, you don't have the right to see them. Student Zhou Meijun, have a safe trip. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Heidi flapped his wings and shouted. Jing Yunjiao narrowed his eyes. Good girl. Zhou Meijun was so angry that she was dizzy. Even animals bullied her. Even birds bullied her. Chapter 784. Hua Tianxian and the others were laughing so hard that their stomachs hurt. They loved Heidi to death. Ren Xingyue was even more shocked when she saw Zhou Meijun, who had been yelling at her in her uncle's house, being thrown out of school so simply. Of course, she was still a little happy. She was not interested in her uncle's property, but Zhou Meijun always thought that she was spying on her with bad intentions, so she often made trouble for her. She never liked to cause trouble, and she was living under someone else's roof, so she wanted to keep the peace. She did have some resentment in her heart, but it was all vented out today, especially when she saw Zhou Meijun leave in a sorry state. Her mood was much better. Xingyue, don't be happy. The fun is not over yet. Jing Yunjiao turned around elegantly. Heidi stood on her shoulder with his head held high. There was nothing blocking him, but he did not fly around at all. He seemed to have no interest in the sky outside at all. Jing Yunjiao found that Heidi was much smarter. It should be because she sent Heidi into the space when everyone was asleep these 2 days. The space was filled with all kinds of plants grown by Lan Quan. Eating those things was good for the body, especially those medicinal herbs that had been hastened to become peerless. What do you mean? Ren Xingyue was confused. I hired someone to follow her. It shouldn't take long for them to see something interesting. Jing Yunjiao said again. The man beside Zhou Meijun was definitely shady. She didn't mind letting that man appear in the light. How could she drop out of school? An eye for an eye was the right thing to do. After all, Zhou Meijun could live a good life even if she didn't go to school. Such a result was not a big punishment at all. Ren Xingyue was even more confused. Jing Yunzhao found someone to follow Zhou Meijun? Could it be that he could find out her secret? But she was just a girl of the same age. What secret could she have? Jing Yunzhao was acting mysteriously. The few of them really couldn't make heads or tails of it. But as they walked around the campus, they could only see the gazes directed towards them one after another. Looking at Jing Yunzhao, they were all extremely envious. Jing Yunzhao hated the feeling of being famous, but there was nothing he could do now. He could only pretend that he didn't see it and continue to do his own thing. In less than 2 days, Jing Yunzhao had already gotten what she wanted. The people she hired were the hooligans who had helped her track people back in Huaning County. Their talents were quite high, being able to complete their missions perfectly every time. Thus, when she got them to the capital this time, she would also let them settle down and become her private investigators. These people were brave and smart, suitable for frontline work. However, they also needed people who were proficient in computer science and other skills. However, there was no rush. They could take their time to find them. Moreover, the computer science department of a university was full of talents. They could always find 2 suitable people. As for Zhou Meijun's photos, Jing Yunzhao was not in a hurry to use them and kept them for the time being. After all, Zhou Meijun didn't look like she was just going to confide in those men when she met them. They might be scheming against her behind her back. She had to wait for a backup plan. Without Zhou Meijun in the school, Jing Yunzhao only felt that the air in the school was much fresher. As for that Tao Gu, Jing Yunzhao didn't put her in her heart. She came from an ordinary background, so she should have cherished the opportunity that came so easily. If she had studied well in a university, she would have definitely been able to stand out one day. Yet, she just had to cut off her own path. Unlike other schools, a university never recorded demerits easily. However, once a demerit was recorded, even if it was removed at the time, it would still be on the file. It would be impossible to remove it in this lifetime. Chapter 785. Jing Yunzhao had only been out for a short while with Black King, but the photo had already been posted on the forum. The mysterious owner of Black King appeared, but the comments on the forum stopped abruptly. Almost instantly, it stopped. After all, because of the comment incident, one person was expelled and more than 30 people were recorded. Jing Yunzhao's name instantly became a taboo. The popularity had not yet passed, so who would dare to point fingers at Jing Yunzhao at this time? However, once they knew that Black King's owner was Jing Yunzhao, everyone suddenly felt as if dark clouds were pressing down on them. They did not think that Black King was cute anymore. On the contrary, they felt that its black feathers complemented Jing Yunzhao's black-bellied nature. After all, there were not many fools in this world. Some people with brains could tell that Professor Mo's appearance and anger were not coincidental. Moreover, that incident had been going on for 2 or 3 days without Jing Yunzhao showing up. It was as if she was deliberately letting it ferment. After thinking about it carefully, they realized that Jing Yunzhao's connivance was waiting for them to be annihilated in one fell swoop. Jing Yunzhao suddenly became a popular figure in University A. Even the limelight of a few third-year, fourth-year, and fourth-year seniors was overshadowed by her. Although no one openly criticized her on the surface, there were some rumors in private. Some people carefully asked around and found out about Jing Yunzhao's past. It was rumored that Jing Yunzhao was a genius. From elementary school to university, she had won countless awards and was firmly in first place. No one had ever surpassed her. It was also rumored that Jing Yunzhao was cold but violent. In high school, she was a maniac who would beat people up for no reason. However, there were also people who said that Jing Yunzhao's personality was extremely good, that she would grant anyone's request, and that she was amiable. The people who spread the latter were naturally Jing Yunzhao's classmates. In high school, Jing Yunzhao was quite nice to everyone except for the people she hated. Usually, when people asked her questions, she would patiently explain them over and over again. Sometimes, she would even act as their personal doctor to warn them in advance. Most of her classmates had a sense of respect for her. However, no matter what, Jing Yunzhao had become an extraordinary existence in the eyes of the students. Among these classmates, there were many who hated her, but there were also some who had a heavier taste. Most of them were girls. Every time Jing Yunjiao went to school, the proportion of girls she met seemed to be much higher than before. From time to time, she could see some boys casting speechless and envious gazes. This kind of welcome seemed a little strange to her. After nearly a month of peace, he had completely familiarized himself with the university life. During this period of time, Qi Zhong had already chosen the locations of 2 factories and was now urgently building them. After all, it involved the military, so the speed was definitely not slow. Jing Yunjiao also had a great advantage. In addition, Pak Yuan also began to expand the company's market to the capital. However, Yuling Wine's reputation was no longer the same as before, so it went very smoothly. On Saturday, Jing Yunjiao prepared a little and went out with Hua Tianxian. Hua Tianxian had specially dressed up. She wore a black leather skirt, her long hair was tied up, and her makeup had a hint of a queen's aura. On her feet, she wore a pair of 10 centimeters high heels. Her height was almost the same as Jing Yunjiao's, and she looked imposing and beautiful. Looking at you like this, I thought you were going to fight the enemy. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but laugh. It was just a meeting with Qi Zhong, but Hua Tianxian almost wanted to wear all the things in the world that could display the aura of a young lady. Chapter 786. Hua Tianxian's outfit was extravagant from top to bottom. She wore a simple but expensive diamond necklace on her chest and a custom-made bracelet on her wrist. Even her ears were adorned with expensive and ostentatious jewelry, not to mention the one-of-a-kind branded handbag in her hand. Of course, other than what she was wearing, there was also the bright red sports car that the Hua family had specially picked up. He had thought that she was only dressed a little differently, but he hadn't expected that her car would be so. Jing Yunjiao suddenly felt regretful. This sports car was indeed cool, but in comparison, she preferred a more low-key color and model. Flaunting her wealth like this would incur the wrath of others. All right, Jing Yunjiao. This car is my baby. I don't usually drive it out. You are the first woman to sit in my car. Hua Tianxian held her head high and lifted Jing Yunjiao's chin. Then she got into the car without another word. Jing Yunjiao had a helpless look on his face as he sat beside her. Are you trying to overwhelm Qi Zhong with your aura? But I don't think he'll fall for it. It doesn't matter if he falls for it or not. I can't embarrass myself too much. I can't help but blush when I think about what happened at the military base. He probably thinks that I'm a nouveau riche. Today, I'll show him what it means to be a socialite. Hua Tianxian raised her hand and stroked her large egg-shaped head. Jing Yunjiao's lips twitched. Hua Tianxian's appearance and aura were already very much like a socialite's. However, after what she did, she looked like a nouveau riche instead. Oh right, don't tell Qi Zhong that I know his phone number. Otherwise, he'll think that I'm the one harassing him, Hua Tianxian immediately added. Jing Yunjiao's eyelids twitched. He just wanted to say, wasn't it you? The night she gave Hua Tianxian Qi Zhong's phone number, the woman seemed to have gone crazy. She got a few hundred numbers and sent Qi Zhong messages while laughing like a maniac. The content of the messages was also very speechless. They were either poems or internet slang. There was even one time when Jing Yunjiao saw her pretending to be the legal wife and complained that Qi Zhong had found a mistress. If that was all, then it would be fine. The problem was that Hua Tianxian had gotten a voice changer from somewhere and could even make calls. Most of the time, Qi Zhong would hang up the moment he heard the sound, but later on, for some reason, he kept his phone on and allowed her to talk nonsense. Thanks to Hua Tianxian, her Black Emperor's vocabulary had grown tremendously. Hua Tianxian, who was sitting next to Jing Yunjiao, became more and more excited when they saw that they were getting closer to the agreed coffee shop. Drive faster, she kept urging. The Hua family chauffeur was so anxious that he broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't know what was wrong with this lady's head. The 40-minute journey had been shortened by half. If it weren't for Jing Yunjiao's calm demeanor, he would have screamed crazily in the back seat to stop the car. However, as soon as the car stopped, Hua Tianxian immediately took out a mirror from her bag and started to touch up her makeup. After she was done with her makeup, she picked up a mysterious suitcase that she had prepared beforehand and walked out of the car with an arrogant look on her face. Around them, gazes after gazes shot over. This was the first time Jing Yunjiao felt so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. Jing Er, why are you standing there like a fool? Let's go. Jing Yunjiao wanted to keep his distance, but Hua Tianxian called him sweetly again. He had no choice but to accept his fate. However, when he entered the door, he covered his face slightly with his hand to prevent someone from taking a photo of him and making it to the headlines of flaunting his wealth. Chapter 787. Hua Tianxian was the center of attention the moment she entered the cafe. She was enjoying the attention and walked toward her target with a smile on her face. Hi. Hua Tianxian greeted Qi Zhong as she placed her suitcase on the table. Li Xiaoyun was sitting opposite Qi Zhong. He stood up and walked toward Jing Yunjiao. He glanced at Qi Zhong and found a new seat to sit down with Jing Yunjiao. Who are you? Qi Zhong snorted coldly as the corner of his mouth twitched. Hua Tianxian took off her sunglasses and sat across from him. Instructor Qi, don't tell me you've forgotten me already? I've missed you so much. She was gnashing her teeth. What's your name again? Immortal. Qi Zhong was speechless. He purposely asked, where did you rent this outfit from? Hua Tianxian was petrified when she heard that. She was furious. Qi Zhong, stop pretending. I don't believe you don't remember me. Jing Yunjiao rubbed his forehead silently. He was too embarrassed to look at her. Just a second ago, he was still full of momentum, but in the end, he was defeated by Qi Zhong with just a few words. It was really embarrassing. Jing Yunjiao raised her eyes to look at Li Xiaoyun. Compared to Qi Zhong, he looked more like a gentleman and wasn't as cold as before. He took the menu and ordered 2 cups of coffee and 2 sets of desserts, charming the waiter to the point that he couldn't walk anymore. Your roommate? She has a bright future. Li Xiaoyun smiled. It was hard to tell if he was disdaining her or praising her. She'll probably go crazy if Qi Zhong says that about her. She's been preparing for today for a long time. Jing Yunjiao looked at Hua Tianxian's ashen face and couldn't help but laugh. A woman dresses up for her lover. She knows to dress up so beautifully. Don't you know how to tidy up? Li Xiaoyun leaned forward and pointed at Jing Yunjiao's neatly buttoned shirt. Jing Yunjiao was dressed the same as usual. Although she was thin, she had a great figure. However, she was a conservative woman who didn't like to expose herself. The buttons in front of her chest were tightly buttoned, and she looked like a professional. Li Xiaoyun's gaze carried a bit of probing, causing Jing Yunjiao to uncomfortably shift her body backwards. She didn't dress like this for Qi Zhong to admire her. Hua Tianxian didn't forget to mention Qi Zhong when she was putting on her outfit. She looked more like an enemy than an enemy. When Li Xiaoyun heard this, he suddenly reached out and poked her forehead. You have no taste. I can guarantee that this roommate of yours is interested in second brother, but she refuses to admit it. Do you believe me? Li Xiaoyun glanced to the side and said in a low voice. Jing Yunjiao snorted. I don't believe you. Hua Tianxian was a spoiled brat. She had never been wronged in her life. However, she had been thwarted by Qi Zhong time and time again. It was natural for her to want to show off. This had nothing to do with her interest. Then let's make a bet. I'll call a few people and find a crowded place to have some fun. If your friend doesn't show her interest, then I lose. Otherwise, I win. As for the bet, what do you want? Li Xiaoyun's eyes flickered. It was hard to tell what he was thinking in his head. He asked with a dark tone. Jing Yunjiao smiled. His interest was piqued. The Li Xiaoyun that he knew was simply a two-faced and arrogant man. If she were to win today, let's make a bet. Tomorrow is the weekend and I don't have to go to class. How about it? Jing Yunjiao's eyes lit up as she suggested. Chapter 788. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and looked at the confident Jing Yunjiao in front of him. The corner of his mouth curled up and he leaned back in his chair, exuding a noble aura. He chuckled and said, It's approved. I'll also bet on one condition. The deadline is tomorrow. After speaking, his eyes glanced at the 2 buttons above Jing Yunjiao's chest and quickly swept past them. But before that, shouldn't we talk about business first? How's the factory? Jing Yunjiao asked again. As soon as Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, Li Xiaoyun took out the briefcase that had been placed beside him and displayed it in front of her. He said, I was the one who came up with the name, Yunling Pharmaceuticals. You can be considered a brother of Yuling Wines. Here are all the required documents and factory deeds. From today onwards, these 2 pharmaceutical factories are yours. I've already negotiated with the military. The crossing life ointment is only allowed to be sold to the military, so you've suffered quite a bit. The construction of your factory and all the equipment and funds will be provided by the military as compensation. You don't have to worry about anything at the crossing life factory. Jing Yunjiao nodded. She was a little surprised that Li Xiaoyun had actually fought for her rights. Actually, she wasn't really at a disadvantage. After all, the crossing life ointment had been exchanged for the military's protection. As long as she had the key ingredient of the crossing life ointment in her hands, no one could do anything to her. Ah Zhao, there's one thing that's not very convenient for you. You're the only person who knows about the crossing life ointment, so the military will definitely want to keep you under surveillance 24/7. In addition, everyone who gets close to you will definitely be investigated. First, it's to prevent the prescription from being leaked. Second, it's to prevent any accidents from happening to you, Li Xiaoyun said with a serious tone. To put it bluntly, it seemed like she had gained some benefits. However, if she insisted on keeping the prescription, she would definitely lose all freedom in the future. He understood her personality. She definitely wouldn't want to live under the watchful eyes of others every day without any privacy. I've thought about this. Jing Yunjiao smiled and took out a piece of paper from her bag and handed it over. I'm not familiar with the people from the military. I only trust you. She didn't think too much about it when she talked to Qi Zhong about it, but she remembered it later. If she were the leader of the military, for the sake of the rights of the soldiers, once the contract was signed, even if she did not restrict the freedom of the person who had the prescription, she would still pay close attention to it in private. There could not be any mistakes. One had to know that her medicine was extremely effective. It was something that could save lives. Therefore, after much consideration, Li Xiaoyun was more reliable. She didn't know what kind of role Li Xiaoyun played in the military, but it shouldn't be bad. She and Li Xiaoyun had been together for 2 to 3 years, so she still had some trust in him. The military wanted all the prescriptions, but she couldn't completely hand them over to someone she didn't know the ins and outs of. However, Li Xiaoyun was different. At least he wouldn't harm her. He believed that the military would not be so stupid as to let too many people know about the prescription, so Li Xiaoyun would not be under too much pressure. This was the best of both worlds. Ah Zhao is indeed smart. You know what I mean. But aren't you afraid that I'll burn the bridge after I get the prescription? At that time, your pharmaceutical factory won't be taken care of anymore, Li Xiaoyun said. One prescription to see a friend clearly. It's worth it. Jing Yunjiao ate a mouthful of dessert and was a little sick of it. The corners of Li Xiaoyun's mouth curled up. He seemed to be very happy. Seeing that she was still eating the matcha cake with a frown, his thin lips moved a few times. It was slightly seductive. Chapter 789. Li Xiaoyun's gaze lingered on her face for a long time. Jing Yunjiao had already sensed it. Feeling a little strange, she pretended to be calm and continued to eat. However, Li Xiaoyun's unwavering gaze made her a little uncomfortable. Is there something on my face? Jing Yunjiao asked. A feast for the eyes. It just so happens that I'm hungry. Li Xiaoyun took a sip of his coffee. He couldn't restrain his gaze as he looked at her once more. 2 seconds later, he put down the cup in his hand and stood up. He walked in front of Jing Yunjiao, bent down, and wiped the corner of her mouth. But there's definitely something on it. Jing Yunjiao glared at him. Tell me if it's dirty. I'll wipe it myself. Also, what are you doing so close to me? There was a faint sandalwood scent on his body. It was supposed to calm her down, but at this moment, it made her heart flutter. Did I seduce you? If not, I'll try again. Li Xiaoyun whispered in her ear. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but chuckle. You're not young anymore. It seems that it's time for you to find a girlfriend. It's not good to keep looking at a child like me. Li Xiaoyun was stunned. He straightened his body, straightened his clothes, and sat back down. His eyes darkened as he stirred the coffee in front of him. After a few seconds, he said, You'll be an adult in 3 months. You're not a child anymore. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. What did he mean? She felt that every time she saw Li Xiaoyun, her mood would change. After all, although Li Xiaoyun treated her well, he was too shrewd. After knowing him for nearly 3 years, she didn't understand him at all. It wasn't because of his status or family background, but because of his mentality. She still couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry, or what his temper was like. Jing Yunzhao's fingers that were holding the spoon slightly tightened. After a few seconds, she opened her mouth and said, "I'm not very familiar with the capital. The factory needs to hire a director, as well as other people from the pharmaceutical company, so it might take a little longer. But once I've chosen, I'll communicate with you." After all, the military was involved in the pharmaceutical company. The management couldn't be sloppy. The topic changed so quickly. Li Xiaoyan snorted. "I've already chosen the people for you. After the factory is built, you can meet the main members. If you're not satisfied, you can change them. This stack of documents also has their information. Don't worry, they're not from the military. I guarantee that you'll be able to use them easily." Jing Yunzhao choked and didn't know what to say. He had handled everything so well for her, which made her feel a little guilty. "Are you thinking about how to repay me?" Li Xiaoyun smiled faintly and suddenly said, "Why don't you give yourself to me? You said it yourself. I'm not young anymore and need a girlfriend. I prefer young, tender, beautiful, and smart girls. Zhao, no one is better than you." Looking at his indecent appearance, Jing Yunzhao really wanted to use this plate of snacks to block his mouth. "Don't tease me. I'm not a little girl who will be infatuated. In addition to the advantages I mentioned just now, you also have a steadiness. It seems that there is no generation gap between us." "That's perfect," Li Xiaoyan said again. "Stop fooling around." Jing Yunzhao was really a little flustered. She quickly adjusted her state of mind. Li Xiaoyan looked at her slightly red face, and his mood suddenly brightened. It seemed that the results of the past 2 years were not bad. At least no matter what he said, his Zhao was very patient and wouldn't get angry. If it was in the past, she would have rolled her eyes at him and left coldly. But looking at her, he became more interested. He rubbed her short hair, which had grown a little longer. Instantly, Jing Yunzhao's calm face became a little more uneasy. Chapter 790. Jing Yunzhao really couldn't do anything about Li Xiaoyan. Using force? That was definitely impossible. Not to mention that Li Xiaoyan himself knew martial arts. Even if he didn't, she couldn't possibly use force on her own people. If she couldn't use force, she could only use her mouth. However, every time she saw Li Xiaoyan, her words were pitifully few. The two of them weren't natural enemies, so how could they be at each other's throats? As a result, Jing Yunzhao could only express his dissatisfaction with his eyes. Fortunately, Li Xiaoyan knew when to stop. After rubbing his chest a few times, he began to pretend to be innocent. His face was gentlemanly, but his eyes were blatantly provocative. At this moment, the two of them were quietly drinking coffee. The beautiful scene was like a painting. Suddenly, a dong sound came from the side. Hua Tianxian angrily opened the suitcase and said, "Qi Zhong, I'm going to use this money to buy you. In the future, you'll be my bodyguard." Inside the open suitcase, there were stacks of paper and pins. They were genuine, and everyone else was dumbfounded. The money added up to at least 5 million yuan. It wasn't a small amount. Jing Yunzhao finally knew what was inside Hua Tianxian's mysterious leather box. Her shock was beyond words as she stared at Hua Tianxian flaunting her wealth in a stupefied manner, black lines appearing on her forehead. "Nonsense," Qi Zhong said angrily, "arrogant and willful. You're useless. Throwing 5 million yuan at someone?" She actually dared to do such a thing. He thought that although her temper was a little bad, she was still somewhat different from other rich young ladies. Now, it seemed that he had overestimated her. Today, she used money to buy him. Tomorrow, she would use money to bully others. These few simple words caused celestial immortal Hua's body to tremble, and her eyes turned red. However, her arrogance did not change. "You are stubborn, self-righteous, pretentious, and chauvinistic." She had originally wanted to prove herself to Qi Zhong and let him see that she, Hua Tianxian, was the eldest daughter of the Hua family, a proud daughter of heaven that no one could compare to. However, who would have thought that he would make her sound like an idiot with just a few words? She had even wanted to give him 5 million yuan and let him do some peaceful work. It was better than being a dangerous and arduous soldier. When Jing Yunjiao heard this, he gave Li Xiaoyun a look. Looks like I'm going to win. That's not necessarily true. Li Xiaoyun smiled gently. Jing Yunjiao didn't think much of it. Seeing how the two of them were like fire and water, she immediately got up and pulled Hua Tianxian down. It's only been a while. Why are you arguing like this? Jing Yunjiao looked helpless. Humph, I can't be bothered to argue with him. He's such a stubborn stone. Hua Tianxian rolled her eyes with a look of disdain. Qi Zhong was a grown man, so it wasn't appropriate for him to bare his fangs and brandish his claws at her. However, his expression was a little dark. After Hua Tianxian finished speaking, she glanced at Jing Yunjiao. Then, her gaze landed on the man behind her. A trace of surprise and amazement flashed across her eyes. I was too focused on chatting just now. He's Li Xiaoyun, my friend, Jing Yunjiao said simply. As soon as Jing Yunjiao finished speaking, she felt a weight on her shoulders. She looked at Li Xiaoyun in surprise. Hua Tianxian, on the other hand, understood the situation a little better. Even though Jing Yunjiao said that he was her friend, the moment she finished speaking, Li Xiaoyun had already wrapped his arm around her shoulders to declare his sovereignty. Furthermore, Jing Yunjiao usually didn't like to get too close to the people around her, let alone the opposite sex. Up until now, she had never seen a guy stay half a meter away from her for more than 10 seconds. However, not only did Li Xiaoyun get close to her, but he even touched her. Jing Yunjiao didn't even express any disgust or repulsion. This man was definitely different to her. Chapter 791. Hua Tianxian always had a clear distinction. Although she was dissatisfied and angry with Qi Zhong, she immediately restrained herself when she saw Jing Yunjiao. She teased, "Friend? Isn't he your boyfriend? He's the one who gave you Heidi, right?" If this man could get close to Jing Yunjiao, he would naturally be able to give a gift that Jing Yunjiao would not reject. Jing Yunjiao blushed. "Are you guys done talking? Young Master Li is going to take us somewhere." Hua Tianxian turned to glare at Qi Zhong. Sure, there's nothing to talk about with a big guy like him. Qi Zhong's face darkened, but he did not say anything. The four of them took their things and got into Li Xiaoyun's car. Hua Tianxian's luxurious sports car was driven back by the Hua Tianxian's driver. However, when Qi Zhong saw the bright red color of the car, his eyes were filled with disgust. It made Hua Tianxian so angry that she wanted to smash the sports car. Li Xiaoyun's car was low-key and luxurious. The black streamlined design made it look particularly handsome. There were no extra decorations in the car, and it was relatively spacious. There was a faint sandalwood smell, and it was very comfortable. Qi Zhong acted as the driver, and Li Xiaoyun leaned in the back like a rich young master. So far, Jing Yunjiao had never seen Li Xiaoyun drive personally. The previous driver was Du Lin, and now it was Qi Zhong. This guy was like an emperor, ordering others to do this and that and never getting tired of it. However, they soon arrived at the place Li Xiaoyun mentioned. Qi Zhong was also familiar with the place. It seemed like it was a place where the brothers frequented. It was a bar called Stardust. The name sounded quite elegant, but when Jing Yunjiao entered, she realized that the name probably meant that the stars had fallen to the earth. The whole bar was filled with stars, and it had a lively and emotional atmosphere. The design of the bar was generous, and the area was not small. As soon as Li Xiaoyun came in, the waiter led him to a private room upstairs without saying a word. The red wine and fruit platter were immediately served, and Li Xiaoyun did not even say anything. "Where's old Six?" Li Xiaoyun asked. "The boss was having a good time just now. He should be sleeping now," the waiter quickly said. Li Xiaoyun didn't ask too much. Being happy definitely didn't mean it was simple and pure. Sixth brother was a playboy. He had always liked beauties and couldn't change it. "Call a few girls who know how to play to accompany second young master Qi," Li Xiaoyun said. When Qi Zhong heard this, he said, "I don't want to." "Second brother." Li Xiaoyun frowned. "I didn't ask you to do anything. Just talk to them and make the atmosphere livelier. If they don't accompany you, are they going to accompany me?" The corner of Qi Zhong's mouth twitched. He really didn't know what boss was up to. However, he couldn't bring himself to ask a woman to accompany Li Xiaoyun. After all, it wouldn't be good if something bloody happened. Although he didn't know why Li Xiaoyun insisted on calling them girls, he didn't dare to challenge his boss's authority. After thinking about it, it was just a few women. So be it if they came. He could just kick them out after making a ruckus. He nodded. The corner of Li Xiaoyun's mouth curled up, revealing a hint of a mischievous smile. Jing Yunzhao could roughly guess that Li Xiaoyun wanted to use a few women to provoke Hua Tianxian. However, if a woman wasn't interested in a man, no matter how much they provoked her, it would be useless, right? Therefore, he didn't stop them. The dim lights in the room made it seem somewhat mysterious. The atmosphere was ambiguous. After a while, 5 or 6 women walked in. When Jing Yunzhao saw them, she couldn't help but be astonished. She saw that these women were all extremely beautiful. Some looked pure and clean, while others were incomparably gorgeous. She also received instructions and went straight to Qizhong after entering, calling out sweetly, "Second young master." Chapter 792. The women's voices were very soft and numb, as if ants had lightly stung her body, making her heart tremble. Jing Yunzhao only felt that her teeth were a bit sore and goosebumps were rising all over her body. Little did he know that these women were also very happy. The Stardust Bar was different from other places. There had never been any trouble because no one dared to come here to look for trouble. Moreover, the business here was very good. The bar's requirements for the hostesses were very high. There was no need to talk about their looks and figures. Most importantly, they had to be clean. It wasn't like other places that were filled with all kinds of people. But compared to those customers, the boss's brothers were the most attractive to the women. However, other than young Master Li was the most mysterious. He rarely came here, but every time he did, even the boss would look nervous. He was very strict with his subordinates and would never allow any women to recklessly approach him. Sometimes, there would be a few bold women who would arrange 1 or 2 accidents, but the results were quite tragic. The women who got close to young Master Li only had their limbs broken or their faces disfigured. However, although young Master Li was scary, it still couldn't stop their hearts from moving. Moreover, other than young Master Li, the others were all very handsome. And this second young Master Qi was the most popular. Second young Master Qi was full of righteousness. Although his skin was a little dark, he was extremely masculine. Even through his clothes, one could feel that he was a super handsome man. Who wouldn't want to pounce on such a man? Unfortunately, although second young Master Qi wasn't as self-disciplined as young Master Li, he never acted recklessly like the boss. Therefore, they didn't have the chance to get close to him. But today was different. It was a rare opportunity. If they could make second young Master Qi treat them differently, it would be a great deal. They knew in their hearts that it was impossible for them to become his official girlfriends. However, a relationship between a man and a woman wasn't just a relationship between a man and a woman. Second young master, let me feed you, okay? The woman's sweet voice didn't stop. Qizhong's face was a little red. In the past, when the brothers gathered together, Old Sixth and the others liked to have women accompany them. He, Old Fourth, and Old Sixth would never let women get close to them. Now that so many women suddenly came over, it was a little unbearable. He was also a normal man, and these women were dressed simply and seductively. Their breasts were even more exposed, and they would rub themselves against him from time to time. How could he stand it? Jing Yunzhao silently lit a candle for Qizhong in his heart. It was really pitiful to have such an indecent big brother like Li Xiaoyun. Big brother? Qizhong frowned and glanced at Li Xiaoyun. Second brother, I'll drink with you. Li Xiaoyun picked up the cup and drained it in one gulp. Hearing this, Qizhong could only bite the bullet and drink the wine poured by those women. Hua Tianxian, who was holding a microphone and singing, rolled her eyes when she saw this. Hua Tianxian continued to sing angrily. However, in the next second, one of the women came over with the attitude of wanting to sing a duet. She stroked her hair coquettishly, making Hua Tianxian feel uncomfortable all over. Chorus? These women were obviously here to seduce Qizhong. She was the eldest daughter of the Hua family. How could she be worthy of singing a song with a woman for a man like Qizhong? She directly slammed the microphone on the table and sat down beside Jing Yunzhao angrily. Li Xiaoyun, however, didn't listen. He toasted Qi Zhong with one glass after another, and in the blink of an eye, he drank a few bottles of hard liquor. Li Xiaoyun's eyes were still clear, but his body reeked of alcohol. Qi Zhong's situation was worse. There were more whites in his eyes than before, and he sat there a little unsteadily. However, after drinking too much, the women beside him became bolder. Their small hands moved all over Qi Zhong's body. The veins on Qi Zhong's forehead bulged, and he looked like a ferocious beast that was about to explode at any time. Chapter 793. The smell of alcohol was strong in the room. From time to time, the sound of a woman's shy laughter could be heard. Qi Zhong was drunk, and there was no need for Li Xiaoyun to force him to drink. The woman beside him had already served him one glass after another. His lower body is an animal. Jing, look at him. He's staring at that woman's chest lustfully. Isn't it just a little bigger? Hua Tianxian said angrily. She had also drunk a few glasses. Her face was flushed. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. Hua Tianxian was staring at Qi Zhong. It didn't look like, he panicked. Could it be that Hua Tianxian had really fallen for Qi Zhong? As he was thinking, Li Xiaoyun smiled at him and whispered in his ear, "Do you admit defeat? It's not good for you to torture Qi Zhong like this, right?" Jing Yunjiao changed the topic. Brothers? That was too heartless. Poor Qi Zhong, who was still so obedient to him. There's nothing bad about it. It's normal for brothers to joke around. Moreover, second brother's temper is too stubborn. It's time for him to suffer a little. Don't worry, I won't let him do anything excessive, Li Xiaoyun said. It was just letting his brothers drink some wine. It was impossible for these women to climb into Qi Zhong's bed. Even if Qi Zhong was willing, he wouldn't agree. Although his brothers weren't related by blood, they were closer than real brothers. Since they were 10 years old, they had been training together. Later on, they went on missions together. They had been in danger countless times, and they could entrust their lives to each other. Qi Zhong had a stubborn temper and was righteous. He wasn't like Qi Zhong, who was a playboy. Once he fell in love, he would only have one woman for the rest of his life. He was very stubborn. Therefore, his women had to be clean and of good character. Otherwise, he wouldn't agree if they ruined his brothers. Li Xiaoyun's voice wasn't loud. Only Jing Yunjiao could hear him. Jing Yunjiao sighed. Let's wait and see. Celestial immortals have a straightforward temper. Maybe they just can't stand it. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw a woman secretly grab Qi Zhong's hand and place it on her chest. She leaned close to his ear and whispered something. Hua Tianxian looked at her and rushed over. She grabbed the woman and threw her out. Get lost. You don't know how to behave. The woman was stunned and glanced at young Master Li. Seeing that he didn't care, she was relieved and said, Miss, it was young Master Li who asked us to apologize to second young Master Qi. We didn't know how to behave ourselves, but we are in this line of work. Can you teach us how to behave ourselves? Hua Tianxian was furious. Get out. They were stunned for a moment. Young Master Li Xiaoyun fiddled with the wine glass and sat up straight. He said, Miss Hua, my second brother has been holding it in for a long time. It shouldn't be a problem for me to find an opportunity to let him vent. You don't seem to be in a position to interfere. Besides, he's drunk now. I should be able to make the decision for him. Xiaoyun, enough is enough. Let them out. Jing Yunjiao felt guilty when he saw Hua Tianxian acting like this. Li Xiaoyun shook his head. This girl was too soft-hearted when it came to her friends. He wasn't doing anything bad. Although Hua Tianxian was a little arrogant, she was still a decent person. Recently, his second brother had been receiving calls from unknown numbers. Although he didn't answer, his expression was unusually gentle when he heard the voices. Moreover, his second brother seemed to be in a good mood when he went out today. If Li Xiaoyun's guess was right, that unknown number was probably from Hua Tianxian. They were in love, but they were both stubborn. Li Xiaoyun's big brother must have put a lot of thought into this. Ah Zhao, I've already become the bad guy. Aren't you going to comfort me? This was the first time he had sacrificed himself to win a deal. Li Xiaoyun had just muttered to himself when Hua Tianxian said angrily, You're his big brother, but I'm his future girlfriend. I will never allow my man to flirt with another woman. Chapter 794. Hua Tianxian was really angry, not because of Li Xiaoyun, but because of Qi Zhong. Although she was bullied by Qi Zhong at the military training base and was not convinced, in her eyes, Qi Zhong was different from others. He had a strong temper and a firm attitude. To put it simply, he had a strong personality. This kind of man was born with a sense of security, so she treated him differently. The rich young masters she knew were completely different from Qi Zhong. Those men were delicate and more feminine than women. They were fair and tender, and they cared a lot about their personal image. To put it nicely, they were feminine. To put it bluntly, they were androgynous. To put it bluntly, they were androgynous. For the first time, Qi Zhong made her feel that a man could be so handsome. Although she did not want to admit it, she could not help but feel jealous. She hated other women getting close to Qi Zhong. She also hated that he suddenly became like a coward and listened to young Master Li's words. They were brothers and young Master Li was the boss. Of course, he should listen to him. However, there were some things, such as finding a woman. How could he be so cooperative? Hua Tianxian's sudden words made Jing Yunzhao's eyes widen in disbelief. Celestial? Hua Tianxian's face turned red. Jing Er, hurry up and ask your man to chase them out. They've been touching me for so long. It's so disgusting. Anyway, she could not take back what she had said, so there was nothing to be embarrassed about. Hua Tianxian was a proud woman. She dared to take responsibility for her actions. If she liked someone, she would go after him. If she could not get him, she would think about it. However, before that, she would not let go of anyone who dared to touch her man. Li Xiaoyun waved his hand in satisfaction. The women immediately scattered like birds. Hua Tianxian heaved a sigh of relief and sat down. She looked at Qi Zhong, who was lying on the sofa and seemed to be about to fall asleep, and pursed her lips. Celestial, was what you said just now true? Future girlfriend? You like him? Jing Yunzhao asked again. She did not know much about relationships. After all, she had never met someone she liked in her previous life. She did not even have any friends who were in a relationship. She did not know what it was like to be moved. Moreover, compared to her heart being moved, because of Qiao Weiman's harassment in her previous life, she still felt that men were somewhat disgusting. Hua Tianxian's face turned red, but she nodded her head firmly. I guess so. But don't tell him for now, in case he gets too cocky. Also, tell him not to find another woman for Qi Zhong. No problem. Li Xiaoyun spread out his hands, happy to oblige. He wasn't that meddlesome. If it wasn't to win against Da Zhao, he wouldn't have done such a thing to his brother. Jing Yunzhao sighed, but she wasn't too disappointed. After all, Qi Zhong wasn't a bad person. If Heavenly Fairy Hua could successfully woo him, it would be a good thing. The only regret was that she couldn't let Li Xiaoyun suffer the pain she originally wanted him to suffer. Is he going to stay here and rest? I'm worried. Hua Tianxian blushed. There were so many women here. Who knew if an accident would happen? I'll drive him back to the apartment. It's late now, let's go. Li Xiaoyun stood up. Then you help him. Hua Tianxian said as Li Xiaoyun walked over. However, Li Xiaoyun only glanced at her and said coldly, You're his future girlfriend, so the responsibility of taking care of him is naturally on you. It's a good opportunity for you to get to know each other better. Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. Hua Tianxian's face was as red as a prawn, but she had a bad temper. She snorted and helped Qi Zhong out of the door. Chapter 795. Qi Zhong's body was full of strong muscles, and he was quite heavy. At this moment, his entire body was on top of Hua Tianxian. On the other hand, Hua Tianxian's legs were already injured. Even though Jing Yunzhao had used medicine to help her recuperate and it wasn't obvious when she walked, she was currently wearing 10 centimeters high heels. She instantly cut a sorry figure as she limped while dragging Qi Zhong out. Her appearance was both stubborn and pitiful. Jing Yunzhao wanted to help but was dragged out by Li Xiaoyun. This is the time for her to perform well. Zhao, don't ruin their good time. Li Xiaoyun smiled. They waited quietly in the car. Jing Yunzhao was already sweating. He suddenly felt that Li Xiaoyun was extremely evil. His eyes were filled with dangerous sparks and it was creepy. The two of them waited in the car for quite some time before they finally saw Hua Tianxian dragging a person out of the car. She was still carrying a 5 million suitcase in her hand, and the leather clothes she was wearing were a little inconvenient. Jing Yunzhao was a little anxious when she saw her. The beauty's trick is very effective. Ah Zhao, if you help her now, when second brother wakes up, he will be grateful to you and not her. At that time, the effect will be different. Li Xiaoyun added. Jing Yunzhao heard it and felt that it made sense. Isn't this called going against the grain? It's a pity that you don't become a matchmaker. Jing Yunzhao looked at him and was speechless. You should think about yourself now. My condition is actually very simple. Tomorrow, you will be mine. Just do as I say. Can you do that? Li Xiaoyun smiled and leaned closer. Jing Yunzhao was stunned. He had almost forgotten about this. You have such a bad taste. Don't tell me you want me to be a nanny or a servant. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. If you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. But if you want to go back on your word, I can't do anything about it. Don't worry, I'm not that kind of person. Jing Yunzhao glared at him. I hope you can keep your word. Li Xiaoyun didn't seem to believe him at all. However, Jing Yunzhao felt a little uneasy after being questioned by Li Xiaoyun. He felt that tomorrow wouldn't be so easy to deal with. However, judging from Li Xiaoyun's actions in the past 2 to 3 years, it shouldn't be too excessive. Jing Yunzhao comforted herself for a while, but a scream suddenly came from outside. Turning his head, he saw 2 men in balaclavas running with suitcases in their hands. Hua Tianxian and Qi Zhong had been pushed to the ground, and their bodies were in a sorry state. The necklaces on their necks and the things in their hands were gone. Walking around with 5 million in cash, it would be strange if you didn't attract thieves. Li Xiaoyun started the car and drove directly in the direction of the 2 thieves. This was a main road, so they had to run for at least 300 to 400 meters before they would reach a bend. Jing Yunzhao got off the car before it started moving. Not long after, Li Xiaoyun had already stopped 300 meters away from the road. Bang! He closed the car door, rolled up his sleeves, and walked in the direction of the 2 thieves. Jing Yunzhao blocked him from behind, so there was no way to escape. Hua Tianxian originally wanted the driver to take the money back. However, Qi Zhong was the one who suggested it, so Hua Tianxian directly rejected the idea. She insisted on taking the money herself, purposely making Qi Zhong unhappy. But now, he had been robbed. Although the security in the capital was good, Hua Tianxian was stupid and had a lot of money. It was inevitable that she would be tempted by money. After all, with the money and the jewelry on her body, she could work less for many years. Kid, get out of the way. The thief shouted at Li Xiaoyun. Chapter 796. Jing Yunzhao's footsteps paused. A trace of curiosity flashed in her heart. She also wanted to see Li Xiaoyun's level. She had seen Li Xiaoyun fight twice. The first time was when the villagers ganged up on him. At that time, Li Xiaoyun didn't move much and began to seriously ask for protection. As for the second time, Li Xiaoyun used a gun. His marksmanship was amazing, but his true level was still a mystery. Li Xiaoyun's mouth curved slightly. His footsteps weren't heavy, but every step he took made people nervous. As he slowly approached, the 2 little thieves were a little flustered. Move. You, if you don't move, will do it. As they spoke, both of them took out a knife from their pockets. However, it was just an ordinary utility knife. They must have bought it at a random store. Moreover, their hands were trembling as they held the knife. It was obvious that this was their first time committing such a crime. However, to dare to rob so much money on their first offense, their courage was really not small. Jing Yunzhao stopped not far away and watched. Li Xiaoyun's attitude was relaxed as if he didn't care about this matter at all. He walked in front of the 2. The 2 little thieves didn't make a move. Instead, they prepared to go around him and escape. However, before they could take half a step, they were suddenly punched in the abdomen and fell to the ground. The other person was kicked by Li Xiaoyun and directly fell to the ground. There was no resistance at all. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. She couldn't even see the surface of this action. Let us go. We were just impulsive. The 2 little thieves hurriedly said. Li Xiaoyun didn't even lift his eyelids. He made a phone call and then stood there and watched. Jing Yunzhao curled her lips. I thought I could see you show off your skills. You want to see? In the future, I'll show you alone. Is that okay? Li Xiaoyun's attitude changed and said, Handsome, handsome, it's our first time. Let us go. I promise I won't dare to do it again. I saw that she had so much money, so I was greedy. My wife is sick and I don't have the money to treat her. I had no choice. One of the people on the ground said. Li Xiaoyun's expression didn't change. He didn't even respond. The moment the other party saw this, he immediately turned to Jing Yunzhao and begged, Miss, I'm begging you, we don't want to go to jail. This is really our first time. Why you guys also didn't lose anything? Can you just treat it as if nothing happened? If I go to jail, what will happen to my wife? His voice was sincere as tears streamed down his face. Jing Yunzhao frowned slightly and shook his head. He did not soften his heart. I thought you would blame me for being ruthless, Li Xiaoyun said softly. Jing Yunzhao smiled bitterly. I'm not stupid. The two of them must have seen how much money was in Hua Tianxian's suitcase from the very beginning for the two of them to be able to follow them here. It could be considered a premeditated plan. The few of them had been out for quite some time, but they still could not wake up these two people. It was too late for them to repent now that they were caught. Moreover, although he said that his wife was in the hospital, it was not worthy of forgiveness, because it was not a reason to rob others. Moreover, was a suitcase of money not enough? After robbing the money, they still wanted to rob Hua Tianxian's jewelry. It was obvious that they were greedy and insatiable. Letting them go was not a loss for her, but who would pay for Hua Tianxian's fright? If others were like them, robbing people when they were short of money, wouldn't it be a mess? However, when the police came, she would not exaggerate the facts. After Li Xiaoyun made the call, someone came to deal with it. When the two of them went back, they saw that Hua Tianxian's heel was broken and her foot was swollen again. She was in so much pain that she grimaced. After being stimulated by the scream just now, Qi Zhong tilted his head and sobered up a little. He was rubbing Hua Tianxian's foot with a straight face. I told you, the trick of injuring yourself is useful, Li Xiaoyun said in a strange tone. Chapter 797. Jing Yunzhao was speechless, but she couldn't help but admit that Li Xiaoyun was indeed more knowledgeable than her in this aspect. Qi Zhong's personality was honest and straightforward. After troubling Heavenly Fairy Hua once, he would definitely feel guilty. In the future, the two of them should be able to get along with each other a bit more gently, unlike before when they were constantly in conflict. Of course, these were just Jing Yunzhao's thoughts. Hua Tianxian was scared out of her wits. Seeing that Qi Zhong had regained his senses, Jing Yunzhao and Li Xiaoyun helped the two of them into the car. This time, I owe you a favor, Qi Zhong said after a while. Hua Tianxian's tail wagged wildly when she heard this, but before she could be happy for too long, Qi Zhong continued, however, don't you know that it's common sense not to flaunt your wealth? You're lucky that you only met a cowardly thief this time. Otherwise, not only would you not be able to keep your wealth, you might even lose your life. Thinking about it, he was a little scared. Just now, he was dizzy and didn't have the time to think too much. If he were to encounter a fierce thief with a relatively powerful weapon, Hua Tianxian's ostentatious appearance would definitely be annoying. Who knows, maybe he would have his throat slit in a single strike. He had never drunk too much before, and this time was an accident. Qi Zhong's voice was cold, instantly disappointing Hua Tianxian again. I was born to flaunt my wealth. How about it? You were useless just now. If it weren't for young Master Li and Yun Zhao, I would have lost everything. It was fine if he didn't thank her, but he actually lectured her? Moreover, she was supporting him at that time and didn't have the strength to resist at all. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so sullen. Qi Zhong's face instantly darkened. Celestial Immortal Hua's temper really couldn't be reasoned with. He only said those things to make her remember. After all, she could dodge this time. But what about next time? At this moment, seeing the two of them start to fight again, Jing Yunzhao was a little surprised. She couldn't understand. The atmosphere was very harmonious just a moment ago. So why did it suddenly change? However, with Li Xiaoyun's reminder, Jing Yunzhao didn't try to mediate. After all, based on their current state, they could be considered as enemies? Jing Yunzhao scrutinized the two of them from time to time. However, the two of them acted as if there was no one around. The more they quarreled, the louder they got. However, Qi Zhong was a man after all. He didn't open his mouth much, but every time he did, he would shut Hua Tianxian up and leave her speechless. However, when Jing Yunjiao was looking at others absent-mindedly, she did not realize that Li Xiaoyun had been staring at her patiently. That night, Li Xiaoyun sent the two of them back to school. Before they got off the car, Li Xiaoyun's faint smile made Jing Yunjiao feel a little uneasy. As soon as they entered the school, Hua Tianxian saw Jing Yunjiao's expression and laughed. "You can't bear to part with her?" Jing Yunjiao, who was holding her hand, paused for a moment and shook his head. "This young Master Li looks quite mysterious. To be honest, I have never seen a man with such an imposing aura. One look and I can tell that he is not someone to be trifled with. He must be from a high family, right?" Hua Tianxian asked. Jing Yunjiao shook his head again. "I'm not sure." "You're not sure? How long have you known each other?" "Almost 3 years," Jing Yunjiao said again. Hua Tianxian's eyes widened when she heard this. She was speechless. "You've known him for 3 years, and you don't even know his background? But you two are obviously very close. Also, I saw the way he looked at you." Hua Tianxian stopped speaking. Jing Yunjiao was obviously a heartless person when it came to relationships. There were some things that she didn't need to say. It was better for her to discover it herself. Chapter 798. This was the first time she had met young Master Li, but she was impressed. As the daughter of the Hua family, she had been through all kinds of situations and had met all kinds of men. However, she rarely met men like Li Xiaoyun, who seemed friendly but had a murderous aura that made him unapproachable. However, this man treated Jing Yunjiao differently. Her intuition was very accurate when it came to judging people. She was sure that if she wasn't Jing Yunjiao's friend, this Li Xiao probably wouldn't even spare her a glance. Yet when he looked at Jing Yunjiao, it felt as if he was putting himself in a very inconspicuous position, paying attention to Jing Yunjiao's emotions at any time and place. His gaze was so gentle that it felt unreal. She couldn't even believe that a man who looked like a gentleman could have such a different side to him. Unfortunately, Jing Yunjiao didn't even notice him. Hua Tianxian didn't know what to say. "What's wrong with the way he looks at me?" Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but ask. "It's nothing. I was just saying. However, this man is not bad. Although not everyone can handle him, if it's you, I think it's more than enough," Hua Tianxian said with a smile. Looking at Li Xiaoyun's expression, he was definitely deeply in love with her. If the other party was a normal, naive and sweet little girl, she would have taken the bait a long time ago. But who asked his eyes to be so sharp to fall for this ice-cold woman like Jing Yunjiao? Jing Yunjiao frowned slightly. She felt that she couldn't explain it clearly now. Previously, Li Xiaoyun's buddies kept calling her sister-in-law. Although she tried to explain, they didn't listen. Now, even Hua Tianxian insisted that it was a misunderstanding. At this thought, Jing Yunjiao was stunned. There seemed to be a reason for this so-called misunderstanding. Her eyes flashed, and her heart was in turmoil. If he wasn't Li Xiaoyun and was just an ordinary boy like Gan Jinshan or Tang Zihua, perhaps she would be able to face him calmly. However, just like what Hua Tianxian had said, if she couldn't figure out a person's background after 3 years, how could this person be suitable for her? Jing Yunjiao was speechless. Unknowingly, she had already arrived at the dormitory. The other 2 people in the room were not there. The moment Heidi saw her, he immediately flew over, but it was still very quiet. "Celestial Immortal, why are you so sure that you like Qi Zhong? The 2 of you have only spent half a month in the military training base." Jing Yunjiao asked curiously. "Idiot, does liking someone depend on time?" Hua Tianxian rubbed her feet and said, "Actually, it's not to the point where it has to be him. I just feel that there's still a possibility. At the very least, he's more to my liking than those fair and clean young men around me." "But you two quarrel every time you meet, right?" Jing Yunjiao asked casually. "Jing Shower, don't you think that quarreling men and women are more likely to develop feelings for each other? It would be strange if 2 people didn't have the slightest bit of conflict with each other, right? Let's put it this way. If I carefully take care of your emotions while chatting with you, what you would feel might not be my attentiveness, but my alienation, right?" Hua Tianxian's expression became more serious. Before Jing Yunjiao could speak, Hua Tianxian continued, "Actually, there are some things that I've wanted to say for a long time. From the first time I met you until now, I've never seen you lose your temper or show any dissatisfaction towards any of us. You've never taken the initiative to talk about your matters, nor have you taken the initiative to ask about our matters. Shower, there's nothing special about you to the few of us. We're just ordinary roommates, not even friends. Because we're all under the same roof, you're very calm and restrained in order to maintain stability. If your roommate were someone else, your attitude would be the same." Chapter 799. Actually, there's nothing wrong with that. Hua Tianxian smiled. We admire that about you and your ability to control yourself. After all, there aren't many girls your age who can be as independent and calm as you. However, we just feel that your life must be tough. It wasn't just tough, it was inhumane. Every time after class, the few of them would gather together. Jing Yunjiao also didn't reject this kind of group activity, but every time she came back, she would definitely study through the night and work even harder to make up for the time she wasted. After a few times, the few of them felt that being playful was a shameful act. This kind of hard work was worthy of respect, but normal people wouldn't be able to bear it, especially at this age. It was obvious that one should be free and unrestrained, and not follow the rules in everything. Jing Yunjiao had completely lost her willful spirit and was like a lunatic, treating every second as a gift from the heavens. She was too nervous and serious. As a result, she felt that she was a little indifferent. Jing Yunjiao was in a daze. She really didn't feel that she was living a tough life. After all, this kind of life was her dream. Everything was novel, but it did make her a little afraid. She was worried that she would wake up one day and still be in a cold prison. Therefore, she couldn't help but absorb more things. That way, even if she woke up from her dream, she would have fewer regrets. However, after being reminded by Hua Tianxian, she realized that she was a little too stubborn. Indeed, her current state of life was a little like when she had just reincarnated. She was worried about gains and losses, and she was stubborn. Sorry. After a while, Jing Yunjiao opened her mouth. Hua Tianxian's mouth twitched. I was just casually nagging. After all, I don't like the feeling of being thrown into the cold palace. However, it's good that you noticed. We were really worried that you would be completely immersed in your books and refuse to interact with the outside world. She said this because she wanted Jing Yunjiao to relax a little. Of course, it would be best if she could fall in love. Jing Yunjiao smiled and comforted her. Hua Tianxian reminded her that college life, which she had never experienced before, should be filled with vitality and hope. She shouldn't be overly nervous and put too much pressure on herself. Jing Yunjiao's brows instantly relaxed. He asked, Celestial Immortal, what do you think Li Xiaoyun would ask me to do if he won me a day's time? This matter had been giving her a headache for a long time, and she still couldn't figure it out. Hua Tianxian's eyes lit up. You're promising. I'm so curious about you and young Master Li. No wonder you were absent-minded when you came back. So you have a date tomorrow. Hua Tianxian said again, revealing the truth. Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. Forget it. Just pretend I didn't ask. Wasn't she walking right into a trap? She clearly knew that Hua Tianxian was a gossipy woman, yet she still stuck close to him. Her brain must have short-circuited just now. Don't. I have experience in this area. Hua Tianxian suddenly shouted. She hurriedly grabbed Jing Yunjiao and chattered endlessly. Men are all the same. You're so beautiful. If I were him, I would definitely take the opportunity to. Of course, I don't think he's such a straightforward person. However, I think that even if things don't develop to that stage, there should be some progress. As she spoke, Hua Tianxian reached out and touched Jing Yunjiao's waist. Then, she stared at her lips with an expression that said, You know what I mean. Instantly, Jing Yunjiao's face turned green. Chapter 800. Thanks to Hua Tianxian, Jing Yunjiao tossed and turned all night. She had the habit of drinking her own flower tea at night so that she could sleep soundly without many dreams. However, today, the flower tea didn't work. Once she closed her eyes, she saw some messy images, which shocked her so much that her face and ears turned red. When she woke up in the morning, her hair was messy and her eyes were a little dazed. The others were surprised to see her like this. When the appointed time arrived, her phone rang with a text message. Li Xiaoyun was already waiting at the school gate. When she saw the text message, Jing Yunjiao was even more confused. After successfully using Hua Tianqian's things, Yao Baobao asked curiously, Jing, your face is so red. Do you have a fever? With a bang, the thing in Jing Yunjiao's hand fell to the ground. In the next second, she hurriedly picked it up in a fluster. Hua Tianqian took a look and instantly burst out laughing, looking extremely savage. Jing Yunjiao glared at her, and with a paw, crushed her cup. This could be considered a small revenge. Who asked her to talk nonsense last night? Hua Tianqian didn't laugh directly. Instead, she hid under the blanket and trembled more violently than before. Bao, Fairy's ankle is seriously sprained. These are the medicine I prescribed. Apply it to her ankle when you go back. After tidying up with great difficulty, Jing Yunjiao didn't forget to tell them before she left. However, as she spoke, a trace of a mischievous smile appeared on her face. These medicines were effective, but when used, they would definitely make people itch and numb. She would have to suffer. Yao Baobao looked at her in a daze. After they left, she hurriedly ran to Hua Tianqian's bed. Great Fairy, what's wrong with Jing? Did you see that just now? She actually blushed. Also, the way she looked at me was so kind. It changed a lot. Am I hallucinating? In the past, Jing Yunjiao was very polite when she spoke, but today, she didn't seem to treat them as outsiders. Hua Tianqian was still laughing. Baby, don't stop me. Let me laugh a little longer. Yao Baobao was dumbfounded. Even Ren Xingyue was confused. Jing Yunjiao went downstairs. Finally, he could no longer hear Hua Tianqian's devilish voice. He took a deep breath and walked towards the door. From a distance, he saw Li Xiaoyun standing beside a new car. The car was silver in color and looked noble and elegant. One look and he knew that it was expensive. But this time, there seemed to be no one else, including the driver. When they were only a few meters away, Li Xiaoyun bent over to open the car door and took out a bouquet of red roses. Jing Yunjiao's body instantly stiffened. His heartbeat sped up, and his smile was a little forced. Ah Zhao, aren't you going to accept it? Jing Yunjiao was stunned for a few seconds before Li Xiaoyun smiled slowly. Because it was too early and it was the weekend, there were not many students at the entrance. Otherwise, she would have become famous again. Bracing himself, Li Xiaoyun held the bouquet in his arms and smiled with satisfaction. His gaze was gentle as he opened the door to the front passenger seat. Jing Yunjiao had no choice but to sit in. The car was very clean. There seemed to be no smell of other people. Li Xiaoyun changed into a black shirt today. The shirt was tight, and one could vaguely see his muscular body. The collar was slightly open, and there was a strong aura about him. It seemed to be different from before. Ah Zhao, your body and heart are mine today, right? Li Xiaoyun asked after getting into the car. His eyes were so deep that they seemed to be bottomless. It was as if there was a suction force that made people lose their minds. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. I think there should be some principles. If it's too much, what are you thinking in that head of yours? Your ears are red. Don't tell me you think I'll do something only men do? Li Xiaoyun suddenly smiled and reached out to touch the tip of her ear. Jing Yunjiao's body shrank back, but she heard him say again, how about I reluctantly let you have your way? Chapter 801. Li Xiaoyun narrowed his eyes and curled his lips, looking like a sly old fox. When Jing Yunjiao heard this, she subconsciously pushed the bouquet of flowers in her hand over, but Li Xiaoyun immediately blocked it with an innocent face. Didn't you say that this day belongs to me? You really want to go back on your word? What he said just now was just to tease her. To him, she was like a treasure. What he wanted was for her to be willing, not this kind of bet. Even if it took a little more time, it didn't matter. He, Li Xiaoyun, could still afford to wait. However, looking at Jing Yunjiao's flustered and confused appearance, he wanted to further tease her. Who asked her to have such a cute and rare reaction? Jing Yunjiao sighed. There's no room for discussion on matters of principle. Too much intimate physical contact is absolutely not allowed. If you dare to move, I'm afraid we'll have to fight. If you can't do it, you can try. Oh, so you're thinking about intimate physical contact in your heart? Li Xiaoyun nodded with a serious face. I'm a serious person, Zhao. It's too much for you to think of me like this in your heart. But what step have you thought of? Tell me. I'll imagine it. If the picture is good, I'll consider forgiving you. Li Xiaoyun said again. Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. Li Xiaoyun. I'm here. Li Xiaoyun said softly. Suddenly, the car rushed out as if it was flying, scaring Jing Yunzhao. At this moment, Jing Yunzhao finally understood why this guy rarely drove. Just based on this speed, she didn't dare to agree. It was even more exciting than sitting in Hua Tianxian's car. However, his driving skills were good. Although the speed was fast, it was very stable. Moreover, the scene outside seemed to have nothing to do with him. His attitude was still neither slow nor slow, but it was very handsome. It was the first time Jing Yunzhao found that Li Xiaoyun's face was indeed fatally attractive. Where are you taking me? Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but ask. I'll take you to see someone. Li Xiaoyun looked at Jing Yunzhao with a doting gaze and smiled. Jing Yunzhao was a little suspicious, but he also breathed a sigh of relief. If that was the case, then they wouldn't have much time to be alone together. The messy thoughts from yesterday were indeed just Hua Tianxian's conjecture. This woman's words really couldn't be trusted. Hearing Li Xiaoyun's words, Jing Yunzhao's expression softened. Only then did he remember the flowers in his arms and sniffed them. It was natural for women to like beautiful things. However, Jing Yunzhao was an exception. She was not as extreme as Old Man Su, but they were similar. Her love for plants came from their medicinal properties. Medicinal roses were mostly used to make tea, relieve depression, promote blood circulation, remove blood stasis, and regulate menstruation and pain. It was good for women, but it was not suitable for pregnant women who had strong internal heat. The main reason was that it had the effect of promoting blood circulation and had an impact on the fetus. Zhao, do you like practicing medicine that much? Li Xiaoyun suddenly asked. Jing Yunzhao's hand paused. Why do you suddenly ask? The expression on a woman's face when she looks at a flower is not like yours. I don't need to think carefully to know that you must be wondering what kind of illness this flower can cure, Li Xiaoyun said. He had been watching her for nearly 3 years. If he couldn't see through her thoughts, then wouldn't he have lived for 3 years in vain? Jing Yunzhao's eyes flashed with astonishment. You really understand women? It's the first time I've sent flowers. Even if I haven't eaten pork, I've seen pigs run. Don't make wild guesses in your heart and think that I've seduced others. Li Xiaoyun glanced at her and said. Chapter 802. Jing Yunzhao was also a smart person. Normally, she would be able to understand the hidden meaning of other people's words clearly, but hearing Li Xiaoyun's words right now, she couldn't help but wish that she was a fool. Li Xiaoyun, what's your position in the military? Jing Yunzhao thought about it and changed the topic. Not a regular soldier. I'm the commander of a special mysterious force. If you count my military position, I'm currently only a major general. I'm usually responsible for some more complicated and important missions. The rest of my time is occasionally spent training subordinates. I'm not under the jurisdiction of the military. In addition, I have a few properties and some businesses that I don't have to manage myself. Of course, I also have some rising stocks. Barely. I'm considered rich. Li Xiaoyun took the initiative to explain and said, if you want to know more, I'll make a list for you later. Jing Yunzhao's eyes flashed. Then, my family's situation may seem a little complicated to you. I didn't say before because I didn't want you to think too much or feel pressured, but I didn't want to hide it from you. My grandfather used to be one of the more important figures in the military, but he's old now and is currently idle at home. He still has some influence. Other than my grandfather, there are a few other elders. My father is a civil servant. His official rank isn't high. My grandfather doesn't like power, so my mother's family background isn't too high either. Other than my parents, there are also 2 aunts. One works in the government and married a politician. The other married a rich businessman and later became a widow. The Li family is in the capital. Not bad. Li Xiaoyun continued without waiting for Jing Yunjiao to ask. A single "not bad" was enough for Jing Yunjiao to understand. Li Xiaoyun never spoke too confidently. The meaning of "not bad" was definitely not as simple as it seemed. However, although the Li family is quite powerful in Jingdu, it doesn't have much to do with me. Zhao, you won't dislike me for not doing my job, right? Li Xiaoyun changed the topic. Jing Yunjiao was originally a little emotional, but when he said this, she was a little speechless. She didn't know much about the military, but she knew what a major general was. He was only 26 or 27 years old. As far as she knew, the young major general that the media reported was in his 30s. Jing Yunjiao's thoughts were complicated. She felt that Li Xiaoyun was like a roundworm in her stomach. Before she could adjust her state of mind and ask a few more questions, the car stopped in front of the mall and Li Xiaoyun directly pulled her out. He was confused. This place was filled with high-end shops, and the clothes inside were priced at thousands or even more. She was not short of money, but she would never waste money on such luxuries. Li Xiaoyun's speed was extremely fast. Like a whirlwind, he swept through the store and picked out a few girls' clothes. Try them on. Dress? Jing Yunjiao's eyes widened. She had no problem with the dress, but if she were to encounter any danger while wearing it, it would be inconvenient for her to take action. However, looking at Li Xiaoyun's determined gaze, she had no choice but to take the clothes into the fitting room. These clothes were exquisitely cut, which was an excuse for the high price. The clothes that Li Xiaoyun had chosen for her were not considered revealing, and the colors were mostly light. The most beautiful one was a long dress embroidered with light purple patterns. The patterns were not dense, so it looked particularly elegant. The two light purple veils on the back were like thin wings hanging down, just right. Jing Yunjiao tried on the clothes one by one. Li Xiaoyun waited quietly outside, his thin lips slightly pursed, looking a little serious. After trying on 7 or 8 clothes, Jing Yunjiao breathed a sigh of relief. However, Li Xiaoyun said, Zhao, why don't I take back what I just said, and you reluctantly let me do as I wish? Chapter 803. The salespeople nearby all looked at them with envy. Originally, they were jealous and envious, but when Jing Yunjiao appeared after changing her clothes, their faces were instantly filled with amazement. Jing Yunjiao's appearance wasn't bad to begin with. She was tall and slender with a thin figure. Although her chest wasn't considered to be tumultuous, it was still well-proportioned and elegant. In addition to her natural quiet temperament, coupled with the silver-purple long dress, she instantly looked exceptionally otherworldly. Whether it was her expression or her figure, they were all perfect. The design of this dress was on the younger side, and it also complemented her age. It made her look more mature than her age. Instead, it vividly set off her youthful complexion and appearance. Li Xiaoyun's eyes were gentle. When he said that, Jing Yunjiao blushed and said seriously, "Do you know how I deal with perverts? I'm not a pervert. I'm speaking the truth. If you don't believe me, you can ask them yourself. Do we match?" Li Xiaoyun's eyes were heavy as he said softly. As Li Xiaoyun spoke, he stood beside Jing Yunjiao and pointed to the mirror. In the mirror, Li Xiaoyun was taller than her by a head. He had a slightly sly smile on his face. His eyebrows were relaxed, and his eyes were like ink but filled with a faint gentleness. His slightly upturned red phoenix eyes were extremely seductive and filled with an irresistible charm. He did not have a masculine temperament like Qi Zhong, but it was just right. He had the handsomeness of a man, but also a slow and gentle gentleness. His back was straight and his body was cold. When he smiled, it was difficult to tell whether he was happy or angry, but also a little wanton. It was no wonder that his charm was so great and made the girls around him lose their souls. However, if the person in the mirror was not her, it was true that whether it was appearance or temperament, they were extremely compatible. "Are you done looking? I'll change back." Jing Yunjiao did not understand the mood at all and glared at the person in the mirror. What kind of woman couldn't a person like Li Xiaoyun find? However, he just had to come and provoke her. Even if she was a fool, she would still be able to understand his hints. However, since ancient times, it had always been about matching in terms of social status. Although she was not a stubborn traditional person, she did not want to lower her head in front of Li Xiaoyun. It was fine to be friends, but it was different when it came to being in a relationship. Once you were deeply involved in each other's lives, that slight difference would be fatal to your relationship. There's no need to change. Just wear this. Li Xiaoyun suddenly smiled and reached out to tidy her hair. After muttering to himself for a moment, he said, "It's pleasing to the eye." Jing Yunjiao turned his head away. "If you don't want to get hit, why don't you try touching me again?" "Ah Zhao, you're too fierce. Come, give me a smile." Li Xiaoyun's mouth twitched as he lowered his head and smiled evilly. Li Xiaoyun had always been a serious gentleman. At this moment, his expression was completely different from his usual self. It was very childish. Jing Yunjiao was speechless for a moment. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You're such a troublesome person," Jing Yunjiao muttered softly with a hint of resentment. When the salespeople next to them heard this, they all grinned and snickered. It had always been men who found women troublesome. This was the first time they saw a little girl seriously dislike the man next to her. This girl was not very old, and her temper was cold and cute. Looking at her, people felt an inexplicable sweetness in their hearts. Li Xiaoyun lowered his head and glanced at her. Then he turned to greet the salespeople. However, when he turned to look at others, his expression immediately became distant and cold. "Wrap all these up." After Li Xiaoyun finished speaking, he got up and prepared to pay. Jing Yunjiao took a look and directly took out her card. "I have money." Chapter 804. The total price of these clothes was not low. According to the salesperson's introduction, every piece of clothing here was unique. The texture and style of the clothes were indeed very special. She did like it, but it was not her habit to let a man pay. The way Jing Yunjiao took out the cards surprised the salesperson next to her. Then she looked at Li Xiaoyun with some contradiction. Obviously, she did not know whose card was suitable. Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows. "Did you forget that it belongs to me today?" Jing Yunjiao's face fell. Then, "Okay, I'll return it to you tomorrow." Then she put the card away. However, this was the first time she had inexplicably accepted such a valuable gift from someone else. Her mood was a little complicated. However, Li Xiaoyun did not take it seriously at all. He paid decisively, signed the contract, and took the initiative to carry the things into the car. The women here were about to scream. The moment the two stepped out of the shop, Jing Yunjiao could still hear the excited voices of the women behind her. "Wow, he's really handsome. I've never seen a handsome guy who loves his girlfriend so much." When the girl was trying on the clothes, he was really patient. He was not as perfunctory as the men I've seen before. "I'm so envious." "That's right. It must be a blessing to be his girlfriend. Look, what a gentleman." He even opened the car door for his girlfriend. He looked so handsome. That car must be very expensive, right? But thinking about it, any piece of clothing costs more than 10,000 yuan. It's normal to drive such a car. It's useless to be envious. His girlfriend is beautiful. At first glance, you can tell that they are a match made in heaven. Moreover, judging by the girl's temperament, she is definitely a rich young lady. Ordinary people can't compare to her. The store manager looked at the group of women chattering and watched the back of the luxurious car as it drove away. He said with a sour tone, "This person's fate was very different." After the car left, Jing Yunjiao finally felt that her ears were quiet. It was not a good thing to have good hearing. She could hear things that she did not want to hear clearly. Then, Li Xiaoyun took her to other shops to buy some tonics. "For the elderly?" Jing Yunjiao was a little surprised, but Li Xiaoyun didn't explain too much. After shopping, he directly took her to a manor. The manor wasn't very big, but the scenery was good and the air was good. The location was a little remote, so they drove straight in and parked the car near the manor. There was a small tree-lined path in the manor. When the breeze blew, it made a rustling sound. It was just autumn, so the leaves on the trees were much more haggard. The color of the leaves was slightly yellow, and the intertwining of yellow and green made it even more gorgeous. Under the tree, there were a few reclining chairs. 2 figures, one sitting and one standing. Li Xiaoyun hooked his hand slightly and placed Jing Yunjiao's hand in the crook of his arm before walking over. When he got closer, He saw that the old man was holding an unofficial history book in his hand and reading it with his head lowered. However, when he looked carefully, he found that the old man's eyes were closed and he was motionless. He seemed to be asleep. Next to him was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He was dressed properly and looked like a butler. When Li Xiaoyun got closer, the old man suddenly moved. The book instantly flew toward him. The old man reached for the crutch beside him and suddenly started to hit Li Xiaoyun. Jing Yunzhao was shocked. This old man was really old but vigorous. He walked with wind. "Grandpa, there are guests." Li Xiaoyun blocked the old man's hand and coughed dryly to remind him. The old man looked at Jing Yunzhao. "Good boy. Why didn't you bring my great-grandson?" Chapter 805. Hearing this, Jing Yunzhao became suspicious. She raised her head to look at Li Xiaoyun and saw that his face was also twitching. Before she could say anything, the old man reached out and pulled her over. "Why are you so skinny? Did Xiaoyun bully you and not let you eat? This brat is a scoundrel. Don't listen to him. Grow more meat and your children will be chubby. If you have a few more, the house will be livelier." Jing Yunzhao frowned. Li Xiaoyun immediately said, "All right, stop pretending. If you scare her away, you can forget about having a great-grandchild for the rest of your life." The old man's face turned solemn. "That won't do. Brat, you're already so old, but you only brought a girl over once. Are you trying to make me anxious?" "Grandpa, you're one generation behind." Li Xiaoyun raised his eyebrows and pulled Jing Yunzhao closer. "Ah Zhao, this is my grandpa. Don't forget what you promised me." Li Xiaoyun leaned closer and reminded in a low voice, "You don't want to make the old man sick from anger, do you?" Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched. She turned to the old man and said, "Grandpa, good. Grandpa doesn't have anything to give you." As he spoke, he took out a brocade box from the chair. He opened it and put the jade bracelet on Jing Yunzhao's hand. "Keep it well. It's a family heirloom." Jing Yunzhao felt a headache coming on. "This isn't appropriate. Grandpa, I'm just here. Just to visit. There's nothing inappropriate about it. My grandnephews and nephews are already old enough to buy soy sauce. They're already bringing women home when they're in their teens. This brat is already 27 this year, but he's still a little chick. How embarrassing." The old man frowned as his beard trembled violently. Hearing this, Jing Yunzhao felt dizzy. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This old man was too direct with his words. "Little chick." Jing Yunzhao lowered his head slightly, his body twitching a few times. Beside him, Li Xiaoyun said in a weird tone, "If you want to laugh, just laugh. Does it hurt to hold it in?" "Actually, it's not that bad." Jing Yunzhao's lips trembled slightly as he tried to restrain himself. "Grandpa, you'd better restrain yourself. She's still young. If she gets scared, you won't be able to see her in the future." Li Xiaoyun snorted. When the old man heard this, he looked at Jing Yunzhao with a serious expression. "Kid, do I look scary?" Jing Yunzhao shook his head. This old man looked majestic. Although he was old, he looked very strong. He gave off a dignified feeling. He spoke directly, but his eyes were very kind. There was nothing bad about him. She had always been good with the elderly and could get along well with them. Walking over to pick up the unofficial history book, Jing Yunzhao asked, "Grandpa, what great-grandson did you just say?" "Good girl, don't take it seriously. This old man is used to talking nonsense. If I don't occasionally go crazy, I won't be able to live a peaceful life." The old man walked towards the villa. The housekeeper beside him immediately stepped forward to support him. His work attitude was meticulous. Jing Yunzhao was a little puzzled, but Li Xiaoyun quickly gave her an answer. "Grandpa is staying in this manner in the name of recuperating. Otherwise, there will always be people coming to see him in all kinds of ways. He's tired of it." Jing Yunzhao understood after hearing this. To outsiders, the old man was probably delirious. That was why he said those strange words to her just now. He was deliberately messing with her and treating her as his granddaughter-in-law. That was why he mentioned his great-grandson. However, when she thought about it, it was inevitable that people in high positions would have trouble with interpersonal relationships. Although the old man was recuperating at home, his previous position shouldn't have been low. As long as his influence was still there, it was impossible for people to forget him. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.